Arkansas, what else we got? Anything?
Gordy?
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
This episode of SinCast is brought to you by Movin, a curated online cinema streaming exceptional films from around the globe. Each day, Movin introduces a new gem, and you have 1 month to watch it. From cult classics to acclaimed masterpieces, every film is hand-selected by experts. Try Movin free for 30 days at mubi.com/cinemasins. That's mubi.com/cinemasins for your extended free trial. All right, everybody, welcome to the SinCast, a special SinCast.
That's right. A very special SinCast.
That's right. I am Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined by, now I'm going to do it in a different order today. Joined as always by music video sins Barrett Scher.
Hi-yo.
And the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
That's me.
That's right. And his brother,
Hey-o!
Jeffrey Scott.
Hey!
First-time caller, long-time brother.
There you go.
Yep. And I hear that we're going to also have Ridley Scott.
Yes.
And Jill Scott and F. Scott Fitzgerald.
Wow.
They're all going to be here.
Wow.
tonight.
But not Tony Scott.
Not Tony Scott.
Why did I make a joke like that?
Well, I don't know. Honestly, F. Scott Fitzgerald shouldn't be able to show up either.
That's true.
say
What about
Jill
Campbell
Scott?
Scott?
What?
Did you say
Jill Scott, yeah.
Campbell Scott?
Campbell Scott, yeah.
Gil Scott Heron.
Yeah, exactly.
Scott Speedman?
I think, yeah, exactly. Scott Speedman, for sure. We'll be talking about Underworld and only Underworld.
Yeah, not Scott Baio.
And whatever TV show he was on.
That's right, yeah. Some J.J. Abrams thing.
Yeah, so we have my brother in studio. This is something that Jeff and I have been talking about for a while now, just because, well, he's a cool guy. I like him. But also, he was sort of my gateway drug to movies in that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I like putting labels on you. He went off to college and started watching all these movies and got hooked on film, became a cinephile, and I'm still back in the preacher's kid residence. You know, if I go to movies, I get in trouble. And so he would come home on breaks or what have you, and he'd slide me Terminator 2 and JFK or what have you, and basically hooked me before I had the freedom of being away at college to see everything. And so I thought it'd be nice to have him on.
Yeah, I'm glad you did, and I'm thrilled to be here. And
Didn't you have a Terminator 2 poster?
Oh, yeah.
That was hanging in your bedroom for a long time?
What I've tried to describe to people, and first of all, it's great to be here. It is a little odd to have your kid brother have something like this that has kind of blown up and gotten so popular.
It's pretty odd for me, too, if I'm honest.
It's pretty amazing. But yeah, I lived the same experience Jeremy lived, and some of you that have listened to these podcasts before, you probably already know that story, but I left for college having seen, I think, 4 movies in a theater in my life.
Wow.
I saw 2 as a kid that mom took us to, and I saw 2 movies. I think I saw Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure in the theater, and I saw Big. Those were the 2 movies I'd seen in a theater.
Just B movies.
Before I went, well, and we also lived in a very tiny little town. The nearest theater was probably 45-minute drive away or whatever, so it wasn't super accessible. But then I went to college and discovered everything, and so yeah, I would come home and be like, oh dude, you've got to watch this. Or Terminator 2 came out around that time, and I fell in love with that movie, and I think I did have a poster, and yeah, brought just kind of indoctrinated him and infected him with love for these movies. And I had a couple of friends at college that then became his friends, and we kind of just had this sort of appreciation for film about the time he got to college and for several years after that. Now I'm old now, and I have like 3 kids and no time, and so I don't get to keep up on film as much as Jeremy does, but I still love movies, and I kind of live vicariously now through him and what he's able to do with you guys, and really enjoy knowing that I had some small role in launching
I've
you.
mentioned Josh and Jeremy Childs before on the podcast, and Jeremy's a little older than you, but you guys were friends in college. Yep. And then Josh got there a year before me, and you became friends with him, and then I showed up. And so we've always kind of been friends with these 2 guys. And last time Jeff was here, Josh and Jeremy and Jeff and I sat down and watched Locke. And that was when I was introduced to Locke, which I, of course, have infected you guys with now and several listeners. And so that was an awesome experience because none of us knew what to expect. And I'll never forget how quiet it was when the movie ended.
Yeah, we watched that movie in silence, and there was this like extended silence after the movie ended, and I don't really remember exactly who spoke first.
I don't either.
But it went something like, "That was amazing." Everyone else went, "That was amazing." And now it's the film that I tell everybody, that I run into, "Oh yeah, you really need to see this.
Yeah,
it's going to change your world."
That was one of our actually, the most recent movie-going experience we'll get into a little bit later. We went and saw Annihilation last night.
Yes.
And we both have lots to say there. But, going back, I don't know if I would be where I am. I don't want to get all sentimental or anything.
Please don't.
If you hadn't come back with that passion, with that interest, because I don't know where everybody listening is in birth order. My wife is fascinated by the subject of birth order, by the way. Being a younger child, I looked up to my brother. A lot of the stuff that he got interested in and did in life, I got interested in, did in life. Whether it was baseball when we were teenagers or when we got to college, we both did radio, we both did acting, we both communication majors. So in many ways, I was just sort of following in his footsteps. And the movie thing, it's really the perfect kind of encapsulation of that, in that, I wanted to be like him. Now he wants to be like me.
Everyone wants to be like you.
So anyway,
So, you know what? I wouldn't mind if they sort of mini-potted Annihilation.
Sure, man.
all right. Well, this
wanna do
movie,
that?
I mean, obviously you can't get into spoilers here,
no,
but just sort of give us your thoughts about it.
I have never seen a movie like this in my entire life.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of why, because when we came out, we were both joking, like, is that a wreck of Warren? Is that because there's so much to process, and the movie gives you so few answers. Like, even movies that are trying to be inscrutable will give you more answers than this movie does. And I did some reading last night and basically confirmed, really can't draw any conclusions that somebody else couldn't draw a counter conclusion to. Like, he and I both had a completely different interpretation of the ending when we walked out. Of course, he's seen the book, and it's drastically different,
I've
right?
not only seen the book, I've read it.
Ooh, nice.
I did.
I just saw words on a page.
I read
Like,
all
I haven't even seen it.
It exists.
All right.
I'll pull it up online. I read the books about a year ago. A friend had given them to me. I did like them a lot. They are very trippy, very not traditional storytelling. Literally, the first book, when I found out they were making a movie, and I read the books before I realized the movie was coming, I saw that they were making a movie, and I literally thought, I don't know how you make a movie about this book. You're so inside one character's head the entire time. There are definitely feelings of an unreliable narrator going on. You're not sure what's going to happen. I don't know how they're going to make this movie. So I went into this movie liking the books, but not really knowing what to expect. And I walked out, like he said, the first hour or two thinking, I think I liked it, and I got to think about it some more. And I woke up this morning and told him, I loved that movie. Like, I want to go back and see it again. Like, it was really, really good. And I don't think it's a spoiler to say it is very different from the book. So the plot of the movie unfolds in a way that is a pretty significant departure, but they get all of the big themes right. And they get all of the feeling right. They get all of the creepiness right. I have no idea where they go from here because, again, I think I've read that the director of the movie isn't entirely interested in making a sequel. He doesn't want to live in a space where there's this, universe of Annihilation movies or something. So maybe they just won't do anything. They'll let this one stand alone.
And seeing the work of Alex Garland, I'm not shocked at that revelation because I have a feeling like he doesn't want to get boxed into a whole franchise or anything like that.
It's beautiful. It sounds great. It is compelling. There are parts of it that are just creepy as heck.
I'm telling you, there are two moments in this movie that terrified me. And I would hesitate to call this a scary movie or a horror movie.
No, but it's got points at which you have that feeling. Like, that's what's really unique about it, is it's not easily labeled. There are real elements of science fiction. There are moments where you're thinking the only thing you can compare what you're watching to is like a Stanley Kubrick film, or I think I walked out and I said, did you see The Fountain? Because this had some elements of that in it that I found interesting. But then there are definite moments of just sheer suspense and traditional horror, psychological thriller, lots of really interesting beats.
The visuals are trippy at times. They're especially in what I would call the last 20 minutes, there's a visual thing that is just flat out mesmerizing. But unlike a movie like The Cell that has flashy, trippy visuals but no real substance underneath it, this is giving you crazy visuals while stimulating your brain and characters you can relate to. I really think the best review of this movie is I have never seen a fucking movie like this in my life.
Yeah.
And there's a moment early on within the first 10 minutes where we get 3 establishing shots of Natalie Portman's house. And I swear he's just the most confident, assured filmmaker. There's no doubt in his mind what he wants to shoot, what he wants to show you, how he wants the camera to move. And I felt that distinctly throughout the entire movie, just like I did with Ex Machina, because with Ex Machina, you're talking about a debut from a directing standpoint. And it's such a assured film. It feels like a veteran made that. And it's even more so in this. Like the guy knows exactly what he's trying to do.
We're kind of in the middle of like a golden age of directors.
We really are.
With the Alex Garland, Denis Villeneuve, Paul Thomas Anderson, Damien Chazelle, you could even say, are like really at
Finally
maybe the top of their game.
Inarritu, Cuarón. I mean, a couple of these guys are going to be the Spielberg, Scorsese, Kubricks in 30 years that film schools are studying. And I think Alex Garland is well on his way to doing that.
And I think you would have to be self-assured to be able to take the story that he took and then to create a movie that is so really original, even within how it is retelling the story.
Yeah.
He did not at any point feel tied to the narrative of the book because he departed from it quite regularly and quite significantly, and yet told a story that was incredibly compelling, and it made me want more, and it makes me hope that at some point they will get back to telling these other stories, because I want to see where someone like him would take this story from where he left it. But he would have to be a completely self-assured director to take something that's got such a cult following and has so many people who've read that and are invested in that story and in those characters, and take it in many ways in a completely different direction.
What I like that you said sometime earlier today, you said that it basically hit all the same notes, gave you the same feelings, hit the same themes, even though it changed basically everything. He still captured the essence.
Yeah, it didn't change everything, but it did change a whole lot. But it kept all of the really important, significant beats. It kept the thematic ideas. It kept the weirdness of the book, but it just told it in a different way. And again, I think it's to his credit, because as I said, when I read the book, I thought, I don't think you can make this a movie. Like, I don't know how you do it. I think this is the only way you can.
Yeah.
I think you have to take something that was special in the written form and turn it into something that is equally special in the visual form.
Yeah, and it honestly doesn't feel to me like a movie that intends on any sequels. So the way this thing ends feels like a standalone. Even if there are other stories to tell, it just feels encapsulated.
How many books are there?
There are 3 books.
3. Okay.
Annihilation. What did I just tell you? They were
Another A word.
Authority.
Divergent.
Yeah.
Allegiance.
Insurgent.
The Death Cure.
Did not love that movie quite as much. Annihilation, Authority, and then Acceptance. And even the way those books are framed, without giving too much away, the first one is you're almost entirely inside the character that is the character played by Natalie Portman. You're in her head really throughout the entire book. The second book then is a little bit subsequent to what the first book tells, but from a skewed perspective. So it almost takes you then into different characters' heads, and there's some crossover. And then the third book is kind of a trippy conclusion to both of those stories.
I like that it can get trippier than this. Granted, I haven't read the book, but that movie's trippy. It's not, I mean, you know how you can leave a movie and not really know for sure how you feel about it?
Oh, yeah.
But you know you're on the side of good. Like, I walked out going, did I like that or did I love it? I didn't walk out going, was that good or bad? Like I did with Cloud Atlas, and like I've done with Cloud Atlas 4 goddamn times. You know you're liking what... It's really hard to describe. Really, in hindsight, now that we've talked about it for 10 minutes, you guys should have seen the movie before we talk. Because I just want you to go see it so we can talk. It's one of these movies you want to talk to somebody about. You want to break apart. You want to dissect and analyze.
You want to go back and see it again and then have another
Yeah,
conversation?
like Dicer said on Twitter, I love movies that dangle in your brain like a string in front of the kitty or something like that. And I thought that's a really good poetic way to describe a movie like this that just kind of almost demands you tear into it after you're done.
I think you need to read more poetry if you think that's a poetic description. A string you dangle in front of a kitty.
You know what? Fuck poetry.
Yeah, and fuck Aaron Dicer. He's not here.
He'll be here next week.
Yeah, he'll be here next week. That's right. But I think I've said that a few times about Aaron. Fuck him. No, isn't that weird though? How science fiction novels like this are always considered the unfilmable.
Yeah.
Like Ender's Game had that stigma for the longest time before they finally made it. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy had that exact same stigma. Yep. Like it took forever for them to come out with a real movie for that. And it always has something to do with what you're saying there. It's got this introspective. It's mostly narration. I mean, Hitchhiker's Guide had enough dialogue and action in it that I don't know why they ever considered it just unfilmable. Mm-hmm. Like I never understood that. I understood that about Ender's Game because it was a lot more like, I don't know. It was a lot more just text on the page, not much. Still, even Ender's Game, I didn't quite get the whole like just unfilmable, can't do it, or whatever. Watchmen was another one that they said that about. But
Dark Tower.
Yeah,
they were right about Dark Tower.
Then they proved it right. Yeah,
yeah. Anyway, what's the grades you'd go for that?
God, I need to see it again before I grade it. Right now, I'm going to say A minus. Probably a after I see it again. It's got elements of Kubrick, elements of Arrival, a little bit of Ex Machina in there. It's just like nothing you've ever seen, and I can't wait to see it again. And that's pretty rare for me.
I think I'm ready to go AA plus easily. I think it'll easily be one of the best films I see this year. And again, I'll see 15 movies this year if I'm lucky. Not the 50 or 60 or 70 that a lot of people.
Yeah, best movie of the year so far, but it's only February.
Right. Yeah, I think it's going to stand up. I think people are going to really dig it. I think it'll get some award consideration.
That's awesome.
For being released. I hope that'll be the case because I really do believe it is a really great movie.
I guess it's hard to cut together a trailer for a movie like this because I was getting a little bit worried from those trailers.
Yeah.
The February, of course, we really shouldn't worry about February release dates anymore, but it was weird.
Certain February release dates you still should worry about. And maybe this is just old Chris 1993 to 2013 movie theater guy talking here, but every time I saw February 20-something, I knew it wasn't going to be good. Mm-hmm. Now, sometimes here's a situation where they have a movie they don't know quite how to market maybe.
Yeah.
And they are putting it on the 23rd and they're hoping, okay, it's before the spring movie season hits and everything. Maybe we can get some traction on this and it'll work out for us.
I think that may be the case here. I think that it definitely feels like the kind of movie you're not quite sure what to do with. And again, walking out, I'm thinking, I think I liked it. I've got to give it some thought. And then it was 12 hours later where I was like, I really liked that movie. I really want to see it again. I don't think it's for everybody. I'm not sure it's going to, be widely popular and acclaimed, but I think it'll be fairly well reviewed critically. I think once people get over the disconnect between maybe the book and the movie, I think it'll start getting a little bit more attention. And I think it's one of those movies that 5 years from now, people will look back at and say that was a great movie.
I think you're right. I think it's gonna bomb at the box office. I think it's gonna get plowed by Black Panther and fucking Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. And of course, we've also got a mainstream comedy opening this weekend with a bunch of stars in it that's getting great reviews. The Game Night.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I'm afraid this movie is going to get lost. But the same thing kind of happened with Ex Machina. Most of the people who saw that came to it months later on home video. And I think it's going to be the same thing here. And I can see this movie turning people off. I think I know a few people who, if they watch this movie, they will walk out and go, "What the fuck do you like that for?" Because again, it's not trying to be a movie. It breaks a lot of rules that movies seem to want to always follow. It blends genres. It's just I've never seen anything like it.
I can't wait.
Yeah, man.
Anyway.
I'm all over this movie.
Mini pod.
Yeah, that was a good mini pod.
Annihilation pod.
I think that was a good mini pod, though.
Now let's get into spoilers.
That was my first mini pod, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, they say you never forget your first.
So now that we've gotten your story and your annihilation out of the way here, we're gonna go back to what we did last week. We're gonna do a road trip.
On the road again.
The most time-honored tradition of all, the road trip. Oh, the places you'll go.
Are we there yet?
No.
Are we there yet?
No.
Are we there yet?
No.
Trippy pod. Wait,
do it.
Yeah, Trippy Pod. So last week we did Alaska and we did Alabama.
Mm-hmm. Making our way through the U.S.
That's right. Today that means Arizona and Arkansas.
Yeah.
And
that completes all the states I know in the song. Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas. Boom,
Yeah.
done.
Nice.
But we'll start off with Arizona, and now Arizona is an interesting state here because this is pretty much, it seems like, and I could be completely wrong, but anytime there's something in the desert, Arizona is used. Now I'm sure New Mexico is used quite a lot, and Nevada and all these places are used a lot, but when you look at Arizona, it was like, they shot Star Wars and Return of the Jedi and stuff like that there. And they shot the Temple of Doom there and stuff like that. So, and there's a lot of things where Arizona is in place of another state that they, it's like a Little Miss Sunshine. It's Arizona is playing for New Mexico in that one. So stuff like that. But in this list of movies that you've sent us, Barrett, what would you like to start off with on Arizona?
Well, obviously, Arizona's known a lot for Westerns because of the topography. You've got the Grand Canyon over there. You've got a mountainous region. You've got the desert that Chris is talking about. So we can name a million Westerns that may have taken place there. One that I left off, I guess, would be Tombstone. Tombstone is in Arizona, right?
I think it is.
Tombstone,
I think
Arizona.
it is.
Yeah. So I guess I would start with the Westerns. Tombstone is probably my favorite Western that's set in Arizona. But then we've got the two versions.
Wyatt Earp.
Yes, I know. Then we've got the two versions of 3:10 to Yuma. I haven't seen the 1957 one, but the 2007 one was awesome.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, and that's James Mangold again. He's like, for every great movie in between, he makes a movie that you forget about.
Right.
He's so hit or miss for me. It's like, I'm going to make 3:10 to Yuma, Night and Day, and then I'm going to make Logan. I'm like, what?
And in the middle, Wolverine, X-Men Origins Wolverine. Is that the one? Yeah.
I think 3:10 to Yuma is fantastic. I also have not seen the original, but I've heard they're very similar in terms of plot beats and whatnot. But everybody in that movie's great, and you get Russell Crowe playing a slight twist on the Russell Crowe archetype. You get Christian Bale in a really subdued performance. Logan Lerman's in this as his son.
That's right.
And Ben Foster, I think, steals the whole movie.
This
is the movie where I realized Ben Foster is an actor, not just actor. So yeah, fantastic movie. Did not know until this podcast that it was Arizona. Gotta be honest. The things you learn when Barrett sends you show prep.
By the way, not that James Mangold has much to do with our Arizona talk and everything. It was the Wolverine that he did. It wasn't the X-Men Origins one.
I'm sure he was going to write in and complain if we didn't fix that.
He was, and I know him personally, and I think he would have called me directly.
Yeah, he didn't want to take credit for that bullshit.
That's right. But one thing that stood out to me in this list is that there are a lot of like alien invasion type of movies too, and that would make sense as well because they like to shoot these like desert scenes for spaceships coming down and everything and whatever. But there's stuff like Evolution in there.
By the way, did you even remember that movie existed?
I mean, I did in the far deep recesses of my, as soon as I read it in your list, I was like, oh yeah, okay, I remember that. But it's not. It was basically pushed out.
I saw that movie the day it came out. I was like really excited. I was a big David Duchovny fan.
X-Files,
and it seemed interesting. But then the whole thing comes down to a fucking Head and Shoulders commercial.
I don't even remember anything about it.
They used the selenium that's in Head and Shoulders to defeat the aliens.
That's lovely.
Yes.
And there's what planet are you from?
Yeah,
and
I love that movie.
Yeah, that's got some moments in
His
it.
penis makes noise.
It doesn't have like whir around.
It whirs, yeah, like.
There's also Cowboys and Aliens, which, if you remember, Jon Favreau directed.
Yes, he did.
One of the best premises ever fucked up.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea for that movie is fantastic. Aliens that invade Earth during the time of cowboys, and the cowboys have to fight them back.
Yep.
And they made a boring-ass movie.
Yeah, they did.
It was horrible.
I think
all
I
Harrison
may
Ford's fault.
have fallen asleep in that movie. I think I may have.
It would be possible to.
Yeah. And another one that came up, not really in the same vein, because those were sort of like action comedy, whatever type of alien invasion movies. But you also have Fire in the Sky.
Yeah.
And I remember watching this in the theaters, and I loved it.
I did too.
Yeah. So yeah, you have a lot of stuff like that, and then you have like Lawrence Kasdan's Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
You know?
Steve Martin with a beard, as I like to call it.
I like that movie a lot. I remember liking it. It's been forever since I've seen it. But didn't it have like a did he do Big Chill?
Yes.
Okay, so it had that Big Chill,
Yes.
but it was in the 90s, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was
Canyon
kind of like the next step in that whole vibe, like ensemble piece,
Mhm.
you know, kind of a character story. It was good.
Yeah.
No, he's got. That's what he does.
Yeah.
Some that you may not know, Bad Santa.
Yeah, is there anything in that movie that tells you
No.
or stands out?
No. What's that movie where it's like New Orleans, but
It's Daddy's Home.
Daddy's home?
Daddy's home.
like let's set this in New Orleans, but not have any of the character of New Orleans.
We're in the fucking suburbs.
Yeah.
Well, another one on this list is another Will Ferrell movie because Everything Must Go.
Yeah.
Oh,
is
yeah,
set in
yeah,
Arizona.
yeah.
And it's another one that's just like the suburbs. It could have been literally anywhere. Why'd you pick Arizona?
Yeah.
I love that movie, by the way.
You love
Everything
it?
Must
Yeah,
Go. I've
really,
never
really
seen
like
it.
I feel like it's got potential. I like the idea and I like his performance a lot. But I don't really like where it goes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they've got the whole story with Michael Pena,
Yeah.
and like how he interacts.
That's exactly
as
what I'm
his
talking about.
sponsor, and like how the rest of it plays out. Yeah, it is a little weird towards the end, but I just like the story. I like this guy's just completely on his last leg. He's got to sell all of his stuff. He's being kicked out of his house, and he wants to sell it because he's dead broke, but yet he doesn't want to sell it because it's like his entire life. And so there's like this weird. It's a muted Will Ferrell like you see in Stranger Than Fiction, things like that. I love seeing that kind of Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
That's
Stranger
good.
Than Fiction, by the way, another movie I happen to see with Jeff
That's right.
Oh,
and our wives.
Yeah.
Maybe
And that was
my favorite Will Ferrell is muted Will Ferrell.
It's yeah, and that's probably one of my favorite Will Ferrell movies. Period.
Of all the movies we've talked about so far, Jeffrey, you got anything that you would like to add about this?
I did see on the list Broken Arrow.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of action comedies, I'm not sure it tried to be a comedy, but yeah, that's a,
accidental action comedy.
you know,
Classic.
that's up there with Con Air and The Rock for me. Of like, and even Face Off. With like, I know you think Face Off may be a better movie than those other two, but like bad action movies that I love.
sure.
I've watched Broken Arrow probably like 10 times.
You remember when Christian Slater was an action star?
Yes.
He made this movie and Hard Rain and then realized, what the fuck am I doing?
But he's a good action star.
No,
It's
he's
just
not.
bad movies. I think he's fine.
Isn't Broken Arrow the one where he and the girl, I forget who is the lead?
Samantha Mathis.
Yeah, don't
Yeah.
they like introduce to each other at the end of the movie? Like that's the whole ending joke is that they finally tell each other their names.
Oh,
'cause
yeah,
they're all
yeah,
thrown
yeah.
together in this
Oh,
Yeah.
crazy
sounds
scheme
right.
trying to, keep the
This is in that era, post Pulp Fiction, where Travolta was going to be the it guy again.
Yeah.
And of course, it takes like 6 movies to get back down to the trash heap, but this is on the way
Broken
down.
Arrow was the beginning of a string of John Travolta is crazy as fuck villains that he would play.
Yep.
So not only does he play this in the John Woo's Broken Arrow, but Face Off as well. And then he also plays it in
Michael?
Michael. And
Swordfish.
and Phenomenon.
Phenomenon.
And no, but the remake of Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Where he's just insane. Like I think he believes that every sort of insane line reading that he can come up with is like just good for the movie in general and everything. And sometimes they're funny. Sometimes you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, he's in a whole different universe. on some of these things.
Broken Arrow, that's a movie I haven't seen.
Another one I was going to
forever.
mention related to Arizona, and this is a little bit off the beaten path because it's not a traditional movie, but it was a film, was U2's Rattle and Hum.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that film?
I do.
So I fell in love with that thing. That was right about the time I was falling in love with U2. That scene from Sun Devil Stadium, the opening to, I think it's Where the Streets Have No Name. It's like a 2-minute introduction There is a stage which is dark. There's like a red backlight behind it. Now, you can tell I've seen this movie. I think I've probably watched this thing. I used to own it on VHS. I used to put it in usually weekly when I would clean the house or do something else. I'd just stick it in and I'd watch it and, listen to it. So they come walking out on stage kind of in darkness with this red backlight, this all long, low introduction. They start playing their instruments. It's kind of building, and then it crescendos and the music hits. And this burst of light comes from the stage toward the audience, and it jumps to an aerial shot of the stadium, and there's a huge crowd, and it gives me chills just describing it.
Almost
It's
getting chills
amazing.
hearing you describe it.
But I love that film. I love that movie. It's pretentious. It's weird. If you tried to do it now, I think it wouldn't work as well. But I just loved everything about it. And when you mentioned Arizona, that was the first one that came to mind.
Well, since we're talking about Arizona movies and football stadiums, I'll just go ahead and throw Jerry Maguire out there.
Yeah.
Rod Tidwell.
Which is, it's always been funny to me that he chose, and I don't know, maybe there was a reason, business reason, but that this movie was about the Arizona Cardinals, because this movie came out not long after they had moved from St. Louis to Arizona. They hadn't been good, like ever.
No.
And so, anyway, it always struck me as bizarre. Of course, now the Cardinals have had a couple of runs, went to a Super Bowl, and I think are more recognizable. But I always thought, what an obscure team to choose for this movie. But the movie does spend plenty of time in Arizona at Rod Tidwell's house, at the Cardinals facility, at the Cardinals Stadium for that last game.
Although I think they used Arizona State for that as well. They didn't use the pro stadium.
Oh, but it's still in Arizona.
Yeah.
That's all I care about.
Right.
So yeah, and I just like an excuse to talk about Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, man.
Shoplift the Pootie.
Well, we really should export some of these California movies to where the other places that they were shot, because when we get to California,
oh Jesus,
Yeah.
we're gonna have to do like a 4-parter.
Well, the one somebody brought up, and this is something that I was thinking about, was that we may not want to go with just Los Angeles and stuff like that.
Oh,
but
yeah,
like
no.
just actual, like the state of California type of stuff, like outside of the big cities and everything.
Like The Rock.
Yeah, totally. But L.A. and San Francisco and all these have been shot so many times that it's going to be ridiculous when we start coming up with, I mean, like some movies, we're going to have to come up with movies that have the character of those cities to really, like Heat. Heat is a movie that I will say is an L.A. movie.
Right.
Sure. So like but
Inherent Vices.
Yeah, that might have to be a whole episode. It's California.
Maybe, yeah.
But another movie that stuck out, even though I haven't seen it in forever, but I just remember being so excited about it, was 8-Legged Freaks.
Wow.
Yeah,
I thought this was the beginning of my thought process that you can't make these type of movies on purpose. You can't go out and go, I want to make a campy, like shitty type of movie and have a cult following. And I'm sure 8-Legged Freak does have a cult following at this time.
I guess. I
But
don't heard anything.
haven't heard that either. But I remember when the trailer came out and it was like David Arquette was like, you 8-Legged Freaks. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, this is going to be so shitty and awesome. And
it was like a Snakes on a Plane before Snakes on a Plane.
yeah, exactly. And I really was excited for it. And then it came, I watched it and I was like, oh man,
It's bad.
It's really bad.
Yeah.
And I think Carrie Wurr is in that.
Who?
Carrie Wurr. She's like the hardest name to.
It's like W-U-H-R-E-R.
Umlaut
or whatever.
It's like in 30 Rock where they're
An umlaut. What's it called?
Yeah.
Umlaut.
It's like in 30 Rock where the Jane Krakowski character is doing a movie called The Rural Juror.
Oh, yeah.
She's got this Carrie Wurr. But no, like if you grew up as a teenager and watching Cinemax in the 90s, you know who Carrie Wurr is.
Which is most of us in this room.
That's right.
Well, how many movies about spiders really turn out all that good?
None. Arachnophobia was not good.
Yeah, and it was
like
going for that same
Arachnophobia?
kind of camp too.
No, didn't like it.
Arachnophobia
I
is
liked
not good.
I liked Arachnophobia.
Who's in that? Jeff Daniels?
John Goodman.
And Jeff Daniels.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought Jeff Daniels.
Yeah,
was it.
yeah. That was one where their big claim to fame was they used actual spiders, and they used thousands or something like that.
Fuck that noise.
Actual spiders.
Never do that.
By the way, that just as an aside, I was listening to Malton podcast, and they were talking about, and it was Alfred Molina was on there, and he was talking about his Raiders of the Lost Ark experience, and how he's like those were actual spiders, actual tarantulas.
Oh my God.
On his back that they had to wipe off and everything, and he said that he said that he was when he was interviewing or talking to Spielberg about getting this part and everything. Spielberg was like, well, can you do, this, can you do a certain accent, blah, 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 blah. All the stuff is like, yeah. And he's like, he's really excited. He's like, man, it's time for me to go. I was about to go out the door and everything. And I was like, I might really get this job and everything. And Spielberg was like, oh yeah. Do you have a problem with spiders?
It's like Columbo.
Yeah.
One more thing.
Well, that's exactly what Leonard Maltin said.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He said,
I feel like a genius now.
He's like, Leonard Maltin was like, that reminds me of Columbo. Columbo had that thing that remember?
That's so Lynn.
Yeah, yes, it is. It's so Lynn.
Jeremy feels like a genius when Leonard Maltin hears this. He's going to feel like an idiot.
Yeah, that's probably true. Although I think it's funny you think Leonard Maltin listens to our podcast.
Yeah.
His daughter does sometimes, but I doubt he's got the time.
Yeah.
Another one on here that just Beavis and Butthead Do in America. I mean, yes, we have a lot of like Grand Canyon movies that we could talk about and stuff like that. This one, they go to the Hoover Dam. Is it Hoover Dam?
They go to the Hoover Dam and they go to the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, they go to the Grand Canyon and
Yeah.
everything. But yeah, that movie is just it's okay. It's not good.
No,
but it's fun.
Funny as shit.
Yeah.
It's almost in that like basketball range where it's like there's so many funny moments in it that I would recommend it to people, but don't go in there expecting like a good movie.
Yeah.
There's that scene where Butthead looks at the TV that's gone. They wake up.
Yeah.
And he sees the footsteps and then he sees the open window. He's like, I just thought of something.
Yeah.
This sucks.
Yeah. I just figured something out. This sucks.
Oh my God.
But yeah, it's weird how fun that movie is.
Yeah.
I was not and I loved Beavis and Butthead back in the day, but I was not expecting the movie to be anything worthwhile for me anyway.
Right.
But it turns out, because Mike Judge always does this, he sort of lulls you into thinking that everything that around him is stupid and that he's just doing something stupid, but there's always a little bit of like, oh,
Yep.
he did something kind of smart there in the middle of all the stupidity.
Yeah. And it holds up well. I saw it recently and I was just laughing my ass off.
Yeah.
What about The Island?
Yeah, what about it? Isn't that crazy that that's an Arizona movie?
Yeah, well, the facility where the clones are is in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And, most of the movie takes place there. And because it is the best Michael Bay movie, in my opinion.
Yep.
And actually, one I actually enjoy watching, not just the best of all his movies. I thought we should bring it up. I like me some Island.
Mm-hmm.
And all that, and we haven't even gotten to Raising Arizona, which is probably it would be the best movie out of this group.
Yeah.
I mean, Jerry Maguire's got a case.
I'll go 310 to Yuma. I've never been the guy that loves Raising Arizona.
Oh, really?
It's just one of those Coens that just I don't think it's bad. I don't see, like Josh, my buddy Josh loves this movie. And
Yeah, I love it too.
always tried to get me to like it as much as he did, and it just never worked.
Totally agree with you.
Wow!
I like this movie a decent amount, but I've just never fallen in love with it like I have the other Coen stuff.
That's weird.
Yeah, I
I'm
love
glad I'm not
everything
alone.
Oh my God, guys just murdered me. You got in full sight of Jeffrey. You have murdered me.
I don't even know you anymore. I mean, Barrett, I barely know you.
I think it's
but
a
I don't
very,
even,
very good
know.
movie, and I laugh, but I don't have the emotional connection.
I think
right
it
there
is
with
the
you.
perfect Nick Cage vehicle ever. Like, it is so perfectly executed, I think, particularly for him, and The story.
You
everything
only
is
say
so
that because you
quirky.
haven't seen The Wicker Man.
This is the way I felt when you guys picked Sideways over LA Confidential.
Oh, jeez.
Well, okay. In my defense, I have come to regret that decision. But I didn't realize I was going to hurt you so bad.
No, that's no. Raising Arizona just happens to be a fantastic movie that I can't believe anybody could possibly hate. But there you go.
We don't hate it.
You do hate it. You do.
I hate it. I want to pee on it.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting one. Have you ever seen Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore?
I haven't. Amazingly enough, I have never seen it. But of course, I did watch the TV show that it was based off of.
Yeah.
Alice.
And it took me forever to really connect the dots just because I never really thought
The first
about
time I heard that, I was like, no fucking way.
it. Yeah.
I was like, Scorsese did Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. They wouldn't have made a fucking TV show like that out of some Scorsese movie. And yeah, they did.
And it's dramatic as shit too, man.
Really?
There's a little bit of elements of humor. But yeah, it's she moves out from.
Actually, no, I think I have seen this. I think I finally got around to seeing it, but it's just one of those movies that it's not super memorable to me or anything. So
No, I mean it's about like an abusive relationship after I think her husband dies and she moves out trying to get to California, but she has to stop in Arizona. I think it's around Phoenix or something like that, and has to start working at this diner, Mel's Diner. With Flo and the sassy waitress and all that stuff, but it's a dramatized version of it.
By the way, because Alice will never come up again in this podcast, I used to watch Alice quite a bit, and there's one episode in the series where Vera has this. They find out that she has this ability to tell the future. So she's like, keeps on coming up with these like, oh, this is going to happen. And it's like, these small things or whatever. And these things happen. And then finally she comes up with one where she's like, all this is, there's going to be a person who comes in and he's going to have a gun and he's going to point it at somebody and bang. And that's all I know. And like, so every single thing that she predicts in that prediction happens. Except nobody dies, and it's just like the gun is shot, and it's like not even serious or whatever. It's like whatever, and so their conclusion is that Vera can't tell the future after that. Like they just like, let's just go ahead and write that off. She can't tell the future, even though every single detail happened. They're like, it's like, well, so you can't tell the future. It's not a big deal. And I was like, God damn, even at 6 years old, I was like, God damn. I was like, are you serious? She predicted everything except the bang part. She didn't tell you what was going to happen after the bang. Doesn't mean she can't tell the future. Okay, back to stuff that's not Alice.
Oh my goodness!
There were some others on here that I've never seen Stir Crazy.
Oh really?
Yeah.
That's a pretty good one. That's when it's a Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor joint where they literally go to prison in Arizona, and I think they're trying to break out.
And it was remade and called Let's Go to Prison.
That's right. That's right. However, I have unfortunately seen Terminal Velocity.
Have you seen that?
Yes, I have.
So have I.
Oh yeah.
Well, there were two skydiving action thrillers.
That's correct. There
around
was
the same
Drop
time.
Zone.
There you go.
And there was Terminal
And
Velocity.
Wesley Snipes was in one.
Snipes was in Drop Zone.
Yeah.
Can I read a little bit of the description from Terminal
Yes,
Velocity?
please.
By the way?
Please.
Former Olympic gymnast turned daredevil skydiver Ditch Brody.
That's what Charlie Sheen is.
Ditch Brody.
Ditch Brody
is Charlie Sheen's character.
So somebody was like, "Let's do Point Break again," basically.
I really could just stop.
And
there.
it's Nastasia Kensky, right?
Yes.
She's the instructor. There's a scene in there where he jumps out and the parachute doesn't open. And Nastasia Kensky has to like do the whatever the fuck it is that people do to get faster falling.
Yeah.
Is that a thing? Can people faster fall? I guess they can.
I think so.
And has to catch up with him and like use her parachute and everything. Yeah. So yeah, it's one of those.
Terminal Velocity.
Terminal Velocity, man.
Yeah.
There's another really good movie that we haven't mentioned, and that's Thelma and Louise. Speaking of Ridley Scott.
Yeah.
Thelma and Louise, man. That's I can't even imagine that movie without some sort of desert backdrop.
Yeah.
Well, the ending is so iconic,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
I haven't seen it. What happens? Just kidding.
they live happily ever after.
Yes.
They marry Brad Pitt in like this. They go to Utah and become
That's right.
polygamous.
Yes,
sister
that's
wives.
That's right.
I'd forgotten the Mormon angle to Thelma and Louise.
Yeah.
Good.
Brad Pitt, huge Mormon in that movie.
Oh,
Yes,
man.
big time. Big
Yeah.
time.
Cowboy Mormon.
Comes in there like with his bare chest and his Book of Mormon, and he's just like, "Come on, have you heard the good news?"
One movie that I actually caught the other day on Stars was Biodome.
Oh yes.
Bet you've regretted
Oh,
that.
my
Caught
God.
it like a
By the
Oh, my
way,
God, man.
Biodome is at the height of Pauly Shore's popularity,
Mhm.
and believe it or not, there was a time where we actively bought tickets for Pauly Shore
Yes.
movies, and Biodome, I think, was the crescendo
I think
of
so.
that, because after that, everything pretty much, I think everything he did after Biodome tanked. But yeah, Biodome, and then another story about that is that William Atherton didn't do Mallrats to do this movie.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Kevin Smith wanted William Atherton to play the I think the Michael Rooker character.
Oh, really? You could totally see him in that.
Yeah, and he said no and went and did Biodome.
Oh, my God.
Who's the co-star? It's one of the Baldwins, right?
Steven.
Yeah, Stephen Baldwin.
Nothing sucks about being a Baldwin.
Yep.
Have you seen South Park the movie?
Yes,
That's-
long time ago.
That's
yeah.
from that. We've all seen that
Thank
entirely
you.
too many times.
Yes, we have.
Biodome.
The last one on here that I noticed was Universal Soldier.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen that in forever, but that was Roland Emmerich's, I believe, either his first feature or it was at least his first big feature in the States anyway.
That's my favorite Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, I think.
Oh, yeah?
Sudden Death and Time
Well,
Cop
yes.
all the way. I could give you 20 minutes on Time Cop right now.
Time Cop is really good. Yeah.
Oh, it's preposterous, but it's awesome.
No, I mean, and you know, I don't know. That's got a good following, I think. Emmerich, this is before Emmerich turned into the Emmerich we know from, it really started with Independence Day.
Yeah.
Where everything had to be this large scale destruction type of everything he's made since Independence Day has been that, essentially. Except for like The Raven. Was it The Raven, I think, that he did?
Is that the John Cusack?
Yeah. I think
Did
he
he do
did
that?
that one. He did something like that.
That's
There was
hilarious.
there was one in there that was uncharacteristic.
No, it was called Anonymous. That was the Shakespeare, the Shakespeare thing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. I saw that.
Where the theory that there was never a
Yeah.
Shakespeare.
There was the guy behind it.
The guy
Yeah.
behind Shakespeare.
Guy behind the guy.
Yeah,
Guy behind the
guy. There were some others that I looked up that they're not necessarily set in Arizona, but they were shot there, and there were just some things that were I thought was interesting. Like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure was shot in Phoenix,
Oh.
and they made it San Dimas in the movie. But
It's one of the only two movies that Jeff saw growing up.
yeah.
I think I actually knew it was in the mall, right? They did it all in Glendale.
Yes, I don't remember
I think
all
so.
the different things, but but yeah, apparently that was nearly all shot in Arizona.
San Dimas High football rules.
Planet of the Apes, the entire thing is I think shot in
The original
Arizona.
one.
Yeah, the original Planet of the Apes.
Three Kings is the same way. I think they shot a lot of desert scenes for Three Kings in Arizona.
Really?
and-
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but I can't doubt it because almost all these desert things that I'm running into is Arizona was involved.
Are we
so-
shooting people today?
Love that movie.
Transamerica is another one that was shot in there. The Jerry Lewis Nutty Professor was shot at one of the Arizona universities.
Oh.
Casablanca has a scene at the hotel. It's in Casablanca, but I can't remember the actual hotel they're at. That's in Arizona, even though everything else was in a California set. LA set. It was that one scene at the hotel. So yeah, Arizona.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff.
I would like to take a moment to give a shout out to one of my favorite trashy reality shows of all time. And it's called Party Heat.
Party.
And you know I like my trashy reality shows. I like my Real World. I like anything where hot people get together and drink and fuck. I love Naked and Afraid, which, by the way, I read an article interviewing Paul Thomas Anderson, and he said that Daniel J. Lewis loves Naked and Afraid. came to the set one day and said, "Have you ever seen this Naked and Afraid show? I can't stop watching it."
Yeah.
I swear to God,
it's kind of like that, right?
If it's good enough for Daniel Day-Lewis, it's good enough for me.
That's true.
Anyway, Party Heat was a short-lived Cops knockoff that for the two best seasons, the only two seasons really worth watching, takes place at Lake Havasu, which is in Arizona.
Yeah.
Think Grand Canyon surrounding Pretty Blue Lake during spring break. So it's literally shit ton of boats all tied together in the middle of the water.
They link them all
people
up, right?
drinking like crazy, people smoking weed, people doing sex, and then there's these boat cops out there basically doing what they do on Cops on the water, and it's awesome. Oh my God, because spring breaking college kids are the not havingest people that ever existed. Like, give negative fucks about, especially once they're drunk. And oh my God,
I've never seen this. What is there for the cops to do if, in fact, all of them have linked themselves together in one location? Like, what are the cops?
Well, they'll
what are
step
cops
over the
doing?
boats. Basically, for the most part, they're looking for drugs. They're trying to stop fights, and they're looking for people who are intoxicated while operating a boat. So they'll come up on a boat that's making too much noise, and they'll check everybody's ID and find out who's driving, make sure they'll get breathalyzers and whatnot. And 9 times out of 10, the guy who was driving the boat was drunk, says he isn't. They catch him and take him to shore.
Couple of beers.
But
what I want to see is a cop flying from his boat, tackling somebody into the water.
Oh, I'm sure that happened on an episode
Nice.
at some point. I mean, there was a couple episodes where there were just flat out brawls between drunk partygoers in the middle of the lake. They're like swim fighting. They're breakdance fighting. Anyway, because we were in Arizona and I like to be unique, I thought I'd bring up some Party Heat.
I wanna see
Yeah.
it.
Seek it out.
And one other, you wrote a list of like stuff you hadn't seen before. The one that on this list that I have seen is A Million Different Ways to Die in the West.
Oh, God.
Which is not good at all.
No.
I heard that.
And I'm disappointed. I do
Yeah.
like Seth MacFarlane. I think Family Guy got a little bit too stupid. That's why I don't watch it as much anymore. But I generally like. I mean, I liked Ted, and I even like Ted 2. I think Ted 2 is actually maybe possibly funnier than the first one.
Oh, yeah?
It's just one of those where nobody really watched it or liked Ted 2. So then it's kind of like the Horrible Bosses 2 thing, where you just pick it up finally and just watch it, and you're like, oh, well, that was fine.
Yeah.
But A Million Different Ways to Die in the West was not good at all.
Mm.
It was just miss after miss after miss. Like, you could almost hear the crickets.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really not good.
All right, on to Arkansas.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're done.
Yeah.
I actually wrote in my notes, this state sucks.
There isn't much now. I think maybe the biggest one is Sling Blade.
Mm-hmm.
Billy Bob Thornton is from Arkansas.
Oh, is he?
Oh.
Yeah, I believe he is from Arkansas. If not Arkansas, it's like Texas, close
Who
to
would
Arkansas.
claim to be that?
Who was not. But Sling Blade is a great movie, and I haven't seen it in forever. But
It's a phenomenal movie.
yeah, but it's one of those I've probably seen it 4 or 5 times, but I haven't seen it in forever since.
If you
then.
watch it again, don't watch it for Billy Bob, because he got all the glory, and I think his performance is great.
Mhm.
He directed it too, right?
Yes, he
Yep.
did.
But John Ritter is fucking
Yes, he
awesome in
is.
this, and so's the
Dwight
kid.
Yoakam is great in
Dwight
this.
Yoakam is
Yeah.
awesome in this too, but the kid who would go
Lucas
on to
Black.
be Lucas Black,
Yeah.
the kid from Tokyo Drift,
Yeah.
he's fantastic in this.
and X-Files.
Just because I remembered Tokyo Drift first, what else are you going to throw out there? That he was in?
you're probably right.
X-Files, man. He was in X-Files right after this.
All right.
No, you know Lucas Black from Tokyo Drift, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I guess so.
You may know him from Sling
Oh,
Blade.
Friday
but
Night Lights, he's in that too.
Oh yeah, that's right. But yeah, Sling Blade is an awesome movie, and I don't know what happened to Billy Bob Thornton as far as writing and directing, because it used to be that he was one of those guys that I believe would like take an Armageddon to do a movie like Sling Blade. You know, like I thought he was living that life where he was, I'm going to take this shitty movie where I can get paid a lot of money and then make my own smaller films. And he just hasn't been around, or at least hasn't come out with anything that's we know about in a long time. And I thought Sling Blade was so well done this guy would be doing this forever. And like, I don't know, he's
He definitely seems to have taken more interest in acting than directing.
yeah, and his band and all that. You know,
maybe it's one of those cases where his band. Maybe it's one of those cases where because he's from Arkansas and this was such an intimate personal story for him that he realized, yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah.
I don't have another one. I got to go. I'll just go act now.
Again,
Again,
I think he's kind of a weird dude.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think he's a little bit off
Really?
kilter compared to
Yeah,
others.
so-
And so, because even when you think about some of the movies that he's chosen to be in as an actor, he makes some odd choices. Like, I'm forgetting the name, but what's the one with the flight controllers?
pushing tin.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that's just a weird. I mean, it's decent, but it's kind of just a weird choice for somebody. If I'm remembering correctly, where
Do you like how I knew that immediately?
yeah, where he would have been in his career trajectory at that point,
Yeah.
to then have done that. You know, when he married Angelina Jolie, and there's just some weird stuff about
They
him.
were
I'm not
married
sure
when they
he's
made that movie.
quite right.
yeah. And
Wearing vials of blood of each other on
that's
the necklaces.
right. That's right. I looked him up and I forgot that he did All the Pretty Horses, which was the
Oh,
Matt
yeah.
Damon movie.
Funny story, by the way. I read an interview a couple weeks ago, and apparently Matt Damon was courted pretty heavily for Brokeback Mountain. But he had just made All the Pretty Horses, and apparently told Ang Lee, "I just made a gay cowboy movie. I can't make another one."
He also did something called Daddy and Them, which I don't know, and Jane Mansfield's Car.
Oh,
Really?
I heard about that.
wow.
And then upcoming project, he has one called
Daddy and Them sounds like that Louis C.K. movie we're never going to get to see.
Oh yeah, that's right. And then he's got
Mm-hmm.
an upcoming project called And Then We Drove.
Oh,
In Jane Mansfield's car?
Ooh,
Maybe it's
that'd
the
be
sequel.
awesome if that was the sequel to that movie. That would be awesome.
He was in the movie version of Friday Night Lights.
Uh-huh.
Yes,
which
he was.
very good. I think it got overshadowed by the television series, but he was really good in that.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
definitely got talent in a lot of different directions. He just sometimes makes.
I
weird
forgot
choices.
that was a little reunion there
Yeah.
with him and Lucas Black.
Maybe he has a cameo in Tokyo Drift and we just didn't realize it.
Yeah, he probably does.
He's Han's
Yeah,
father.
Yeah, exactly. Han's father. You have to. That's
Everything
a
about that is
thinker.
wrong.
That's a thinker because you're sitting there going, Han's father. Sure, yeah. Oh, isn't Han Asian? Isn't
Tokyo Drift! Tokyo!
one movie that I didn't remember this. True Grit.
yeah, I know.
It was in Arkansas. I did not. I'd forgotten all about that. Because Matt Damon is playing a Texas Ranger in there. I
Right.
just assumed it was Texas and everything. But isn't it that he's gone to Arkansas?
Yeah, he's chasing after the outlaw that killed Haley
Yeah.
Steinfeld's.
Right. But True Grit, another great movie, and we got the Coen brothers back. Coen
Man.
brothers in 2
I'm
movies.
telling you, I love this movie. And again, I think I've said this earlier or in a previous podcast, but I like the remake better than I like the original,
Mm-hmm.
even though, John Wayne in the original is so revered as Rooster Cogburn. I thought Jeff Bridges fucking killed it.
He did. I wish that it hadn't given birth to so many Jeff Bridges, Rooster Cogburn roles.
Yep.
Because I feel like there have been 3 movies since then where he talks almost exactly like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Find a new voice because you're a great actor.
Hell or High Water,
Yeah.
Bad Blake, what was that?
Well, and then the one with Ryan,
Crazy Heart.
Crazy
the
Heart.
Men
yeah.
in Black ripoff. He had that
Oh,
same kind of
R.I.P.D..
voice. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a good one. And then there's Mud, which you said you haven't seen. I would suggest to all of you go watch Mud if you haven't seen it. Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
Sounds like a Depression era insult. Go watch Mud.
Yes.
You ever heard somebody order a cup of coffee and be like, cup of mud?
I have not.
He's like, no, man. I think you get your ass kicked for saying something like that. But yeah, Mud is really good. It's about Matthew McConaughey is playing this guy who's running from the law or whatever, and these 2 kids befriend him and start helping him out secretly. And he's tell him to go get this and go get that, whatever. But it's really good, and it's called Mud. I know it's something where it's like it's hard to get your excitement up for it, but I really enjoyed this. It's again another one of these type of movies we don't get to talk about that often, and this comes up and it's excellent. I recommend it. Another thing from Arkansas, and there has been a ton of movies about this subject, and it's so you have Paradise Lost came out on HBO about the West Memphis 3 and everything. It's really interesting to watch this story unfold over the years. I watched Paradise Lost in college in like 1995, 96.
Oh, really? It's been that long?
Yeah. And at the time, it was just that one had come out. And they had come to all these different conclusions by the time of the first one, that the first one, when you watch it now, is antiquated. Like they figured out so many different things through the different forensic tests and stuff like that Arkansas just didn't have back in the 90s. It was much easier for the residents of Arkansas to believe this was some sort of satanic killing and everything, because they hadn't heard about stuff like, I don't want to get too into the gruesome natures of the killings or whatever, but the killings themselves were simple, and then everything that happened afterwards with the bodies is what people thought that the satanic stuff came. So stuff that where like animals come in and start feeding and stuff like that. That stuff that I don't think they knew in the first Paradise Lost. By the second one, they do know that, because they got experts and stuff like that, and they're like trying to figure out who could have possibly done this and everything, and they come to the conclusion in the second one wrongly that they keep getting this. They keep wanting to get a narrative where they're like, this is the person who probably did it, and it's just based on watching these movies, you can see how a story continually evolves, and you can't just look at something the first time, the first reports you hear about something, and say that's the truth. But people do that all the time.
Yep.
They see that first thing and they're like, oh, that's the truth, and they can't be convinced otherwise afterwards.
That's all we do at this point.
That's all we do.
That's all Twitter is good for, is to solidify some take that is never undone just because it was the first one out to shoot.
I keep seeing these people who clap back at the president or some other pundit that says something silly, and I'm like, well, you actually think he's reading that? Like Patton Oswalt does it more as often as anyone, and I know a famous person like him might just be doing it for the benefit of his own fans and his own brand, if you will. But everyday people do this. People that are fans of us, I'll see them clap back at some pundit like, oh, you shut your fucking face, you're evil. And I'm just like, what's the point?
Yeah.
That guy knows you think he's evil. You're actually probably just playing into his hand by giving him the attention. He wants to make you say, fuck you, you're evil. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I know this is somewhat off topic, but I love talking about this. It brings up, I mean, we're talking about Arkansas and we're talking about movies from Arkansas, but this brings up another thing that I'd love to talk about. And it's just the fact that this story changed so much over the years that by the time you watch the first Paradise Lost, you're pretty convinced that the three didn't do it. Well, the second one, when people actually come in and scientifically explain, they probably didn't do it, and that people are getting their panties in a twist because these people listen to like fucking heavy metal music and shit. That's basically the whole reason they were convicted. Yeah. Was because, he listened to heavy metal and he had some books in his, I mean, it's like, are you serious? They got convicted because of this. Because, and the judges, like, even after they're told, yeah, these kids couldn't have possibly have done it, these judges are like, we're staying by it, man. They did it. There's no doubt about it. They did it because they don't ever want to admit that they made a mistake. So there's I think there's 4 or 5 movies about West. There might be more by now.
There's the 3 Paradise Lost.
There's 3 Paradise Lost.
I think you saw like a different West Memphis 3
I did. I don't remember what it was called.
I think it might have been called West Memphis 3 or something like that. It was at least had that name in it.
And it was from the last couple of years.
And that one came out during the time of the retrial or
They were exonerated.
They were
right?
exonerated. I mean, it's not really spoiler at this point, but at this point that was that weird thing where they had to say they were guilty of the crime, but they were let go because of it's a weird rule.
They had to basically say they were guilty.
Yeah.
Before they knew for certain the state was going to keep its side of the bargain.
Right.
Like there was this whole tension of like we might say we're guilty, and then they go, "Yeah, that's what we said all along," and throw him back in prison.
Yeah.
And one guy wasn't going to do it. One guy was holding out, and his family had to basically beg him to do it because he was on principle alone. He wasn't going to say he did something he didn't do.
Yeah, and it was some weird loophole thing where you basically said, "I'm guilty," but they're going to let you go because they know you're not guilty, but they don't want you to be able to sue afterwards.
Right.
So it's like it's insane. It's insane to me this whole thing ever happened, and I'm sure it happens everywhere and a lot of different places. There's probably 100,000 different of these cases where people were convicted for something stupid like that.
Yep.
So yeah, it's interesting to me just based on just watch those movies in order.
Meanwhile,
And-
I get away with all the crimes I commit.
Oh, well,
No,
sure.
nice.
I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
on a lucky streak.
You don't go around bragging about it.
Not on a podcast. It's listened to a lot of people.
That's the thing for me though, is just interesting is watch those movies in order and then tell me why we should take news that comes into our feeds that as something is happening. Don't take it 100%, guys. You can't do that.
Well, and we learned that again with the Boston bombing, where we, Reddit incorrectly identified the bomber.
Yep.
And people started witch hunting him online and harassing him. And, 12 hours later, they caught the real guy.
And it happened with the Parkland shooter, too.
Yeah.
It happened. I was sitting there watching that unfold on CNN. And I was like sitting there, like they got all these people on there like, well, one thing that you could say is if this happened is that this could have happened. And you're like, God damn it. Stop saying that. Yeah. There are going to be people who believe that forever now that you've said this.
Yeah.
So anyway.
My favorite is especially on Twitter when something will happen and within 12 to 14 hours, immediately there's this movement. Oh, everyone's got to empathize with this particular thing because of what happened. And then everyone starts like doing something like wearing a ribbon. And if you don't post the ribbon picture on your profile picture or whatever, then you must not.
Who doesn't want to wear the ribbon?
And then, but then literally, within days, then there'll be some article that's written as a backlash to the people who are wearing the ribbon because they don't get it quite as much as now this new take gets it.
Well, it's like,
and then there'll be people following that, and then they'll come. I've seen that happen more than once where there are like 4 iterations of takes over one thing because we're trying to pretend we can make a definitive decision about something in hours when most of us need days, weeks, sometimes months or years to really think critically about important things. And we just don't have that space.
Well, and we, to a certain extent, I feel like this exposes a good part of humanity's nature is that we want to do something to help. We want to feel like we can contribute. This is why we like the tweets or send our thoughts and prayers or wear the ribbon or what have you. But they just did the BAFTA Awards, and a bunch of the actresses said, hey, we're going to wear black in honor of this Me Too Time's Up or whatever. And Kate Middleton wore a green dress. And people gave her shit.
Yeah.
Because she didn't wear a black dress to support the movement. And I'm just like, you are manufacturing bullshit to get upset about at this point. Wear black if you want to support the movement. Maybe she didn't get the memo. Maybe she's a future queen and can do whatever the fuck she wants.
Yeah.
But don't tell me the color of her dress decides where she stands on an issue.
Yeah, it's so silly. But you had this buried in the email, the movie that came out, they Hollywoodized as Devil's Knot.
Right.
And I have not seen this movie.
I haven't either. No, I have a long time
It's
ago.
Colin Firth and Reese Witherspoon in it.
Yeah.
I didn't even know this movie came out.
Well, when you think of Colin Firth, you think of Arkansas.
I do.
Which 2 of the West Memphis 3 are they playing?
Well, they're not, but Colin Firth is playing Ron Lax, who I don't remember in this story.
Was he the attorney?
I guess he
They're
must
probably
be the
both
story.
playing attorneys.
But no, Reese
or-
Witherspoon is playing Pam Hobbs. That's one of the mothers.
Yeah.
And Alessandra Nivola is playing Terry Hobbs. That is extremely amazing for Terry Hobbs, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Alessandra Nivola is like a fucking male model, and Terry Hobbs is a garbage piece of human piece of shit, man.
Well, I feel like, again, because I like to be weird, I feel like while we're in Arkansas, we should talk a little bit about Primary Colors.
Yeah.
Just because this is the fictionalized Bill Clinton story, essentially. And he was the governor of Arkansas, began his campaign for president as relative nobody, and, of course, ended up winning. and was, there are all these stories about Clinton being kind of a womanizer, and this book was written anonymously at first. Like, we know who wrote it now, but when it came out and was released, and
You don't know who wrote it.
it's Joe Klein.
Oh, man.
Burn. I thought you had me, didn't you?
I did. I was convinced there was no way you knew who wrote that book.
Anyway, I enjoy this movie, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of great actors. Billy Bob is in here, giving us who's he playing? He's playing the
James Carville.
James Carville, basically.
More Tierney's in this. Emma Thompson, Kathy Bates, and Travolta gives a good performance here. This is not that mustache twirling evil Travolta we were talking about, although this is in the same
There's
general
a lot of
era.
Travolta and Billy Bob in these two states.
Yeah.
What is the reason for that? I don't know. But because some of it takes place at his home, and on the early parts of the campaign before they go out on the road, it's technically an Arkansas movie.
Yeah. Do they ever outright say Arkansas in this?
Yeah,
I don't
he's
remember.
the governor of Arkansas.
Oh, he is?
Yeah, in the
Okay.
movie.
Because I don't think any of the movie itself is actually shot in Arkansas. But
I'm sure it's probably
but
not.
I read the book too. I read this book, and they're also so very careful not to say anything specific. But I guess if they do say governor of Arkansas or whatever, then
Well, they can fictionalize that.
yeah.
But I mean,
It's totally the other governor of Arkansas.
this
Behaves
is
the exact
Mike
same way.
Huckabee.
This is as technical as things get, because he's playing Bill Clinton,
Yeah.
and Emma Thompson is playing Hillary Clinton, and there's some great moments here, especially between Kathy Bates and the two leads, because she's this like no nonsense but also kind of crazy like fixer for like campaigns.
I'm the Dustbuster.
Yeah. Anyway, good film, good book. Check it out. Arkansas. What else we got? Anything?
Gordy. You have any thoughts on Gordy?
I've watched Gordy, I think, twice.
Really?
Wow.
And I don't remember anything. And the parts that I do remember are Babe.
I think I heard this movie was actually really good. I've never seen it.
Again, it probably is perfectly fine.
I've
but you've
never
got two Babe
seen
movies
it,
to
but
choose from.
yeah, but it did come out right after Babe, and like it was. In fact, it came out the same year.
I think it did.
95?
Yeah, it came out the same year, and how in the world did we have two talking pig movies?
I don't know, man. There's Brendan Fraser. I don't know if you read the Brendan Fraser
I read it.
interview.
It was fantastic.
But he's working on a J. Paul Getty's series. That,
Even though we have a movie that just came
it's
out.
not Ridley Scott that's doing it. Danny Boyle is doing it.
Well, he's producing it.
So it's like, why do we have these? Why do we have Dante's Peak and Volcano in the same fucking year?
As
You
an
know?
aside, everybody should read that Brendan Fraser article if you guys.
Yeah,
didn't
I read it.
It's fantastic. It both gives great insight into the man, where he's been when we haven't been seeing him in movies. Just seems like a really quirky, awesome dude. I love the part where he goes, I just need to let some arrows fly. And you think he's being philosophical, and he literally stands up and goes outside and starts shooting arrows at his target.
Oh, yeah.
Great read.
That is a fantastic article.
I just thought of this. This is neither here nor there, but since you mentioned the limited series he's working on, reminded me. Have you guys been watching this Waco series on Paramount?
I saw like a 3-hour report on it on like 2020, and it basically covered everything that they're going to cover, except that they showed live footage from that actual thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I was drawn in. I feel like Michael Shannon and Taylor Kitsch are both playing opposite their type, because Michael Shannon's playing this really subdued negotiator guy.
You would definitely think of him as Koresh.
Exactly. And Taylor Kitsch is, I think of him as more as the FBI guy than Koresh. There's also a Culkin in this. It's Rory.
Oh, yeah?
But I swear to God, I'm watching this episode. I think it was last night, the most recent episode. By the way, it's really good. I'm really enjoying it. But this guy came in to talk to Koresh, and he basically wants to leave. He's scared of dying, and he's really tall, and he's got long hair. And I was like, man, that guy could almost be a Culkin. Like, I'm joking about it. And I looked up the cast later, and it's Rory Culkin.
Yeah.
And I was just like, holy shit. Like, he looks different enough that it shouldn't be him, but similar enough that he could have been him. Anyway, I find that series good. I'm going to keep watching it.
By the way, our memories of Gordy and Babe are even wronger than we thought.
Sweet. They
So-
came out 8 years apart.
No, they came out the same year, but Gordy was first.
And the one pig's a
oh,
dog.
really?
Gordy came out first in May, and Babe came out in August, which is weird to me. Like, and I wouldn't be surprised if I look later on and find out that Gordy's actual release date that they show here on the IMDb is like some fucking international film festival bullshit.
Yeah.
And they actually came out with it in November of 95 or something like that. But yeah, and Gordy also has a 3.9 on the IMDb.
Yikes.
So it was not well received. Like for whatever reason, I thought that it actually had some decent, people who liked it or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sure there is people who like it, but anyway, I was surprised by that. I thought Gordy came out afterwards.
Interesting.
So Babe turned out to be the copycat of that year.
I guess so.
But it was the better copycat.
Yes.
Here to talk about Movie again.
Yes.
Movie.
And I have since our last podcast, I've done three more movies.
Wow.
on
Yeah.
Movie. I watched Damien Chazelle's first one.
Okay.
Guy and Madeline sitting on a park bench.
What did you think?
Is that it?
Guy and Madeline on a
On a
park
park
bench.
bench.
Yeah.
Which that comprises 5 seconds of the movie is when they're sitting on the park bench.
Multiple angles of it.
That was an unusual movie. It's fun to see where these people come from
Yes.
and everything. And man, Barrett was talking about this in the email. The music from it's
awesome.
Hurwitz again.
Yeah,
from
Justin
La La Land,
Hurwitz.
Justin Hurwitz
Yeah.
again. It's funny. It's like this movie's very like sort of like a school, like college type of movie.
Which he made it in college
Yeah,
at
he made
Harvard.
it in college. And there's this score with this amazing orchestral sound
Yeah.
to it. It just doesn't seem like like how is it possible?
I
Like that the money it took to make that movie and the like to get something that well composed in a movie like that.
Huh.
I mean, that would probably cost more than the entire movie does. That's like how ridiculously good that music is.
Well, and they also cast an actual trumpet player in the role of the main protagonist. And you can tell, like, he's not really the best actor, but he's unbelievable. Jason Palmer is the guy's name. And there's one scene in that movie, if you've ever ridden public transit and, like, you see millions of people on public transit all the time. But like sometimes you kind of feel a connection to somebody and like, especially if they're good looking and that kind of thing, or like they just look at you differently. There's a scene on a train where a guy and this other girl like kind of just connect and they kind of touch a little bit. And
Yeah.
it is awesome.
It's the best part of the movie.
It really is. This movie, you can tell it's very low budget and like the sound quality and all that great outside of the music. But yeah, you can definitely see where Damien Chazelle's going.
Yeah, you can see La La Land sort of in this first movie he's made because it breaks out into some musical stuff. There's even one of the shots where, like in La La Land, where the camera's going back and forth, and everything.
Oh, cool.
And so, like, you can see that is one of the great things about a service like this is seeing these type of these first movies. You see where these people come from, and yeah, maybe that movie isn't the best that they could possibly. Maybe it is. It might be the best that they could possibly do at the time.
Yeah,
and
at the time.
resources they have. But you get to see them before they've made it big and everything. You can kind of see that raw version of themselves and everything, and it's really fun to do that type of thing. I also saw Barry Jenkins' first feature.
Was that good?
Medicine for Melancholy. That was very good,
Awesome.
actually. I was a little worried because the rating on it didn't seem as high as as normal. But like when I watched it, I really got into it. That's kind of slow and kind of a before sunrise type movie, but I really liked it.
Awesome.
So that's the thing about this service, man. These movies that come on that you would never ever get a chance to watch normally come on, and it's you got your mix of experimental stuff and stuff that you may have heard of before, but you never got a chance to watch.
Yeah, it's great. And it's really easy. Just sign up. You get a 30-day free trial when you go to mubi.com/cinemasins, mubi.com/cinemasins. 30 days of free content. You will be raving about these movies like we are.
That's like 60 movies.
I know.
And then if you're not digging it, go on with your life. Move on. What's the harm?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a lot of companies might try and offer you something that sounds like a free trial.
Right.
This
is a free trial. Try it. That's with this. We're not fooling you.
Yeah.
Just go to mubi.com/cinemasins.
Yeah, if you are looking to see some stuff that you've like they do all these great director retrospectives and they do all these great foreign film things. I think that's their bread and butter, really. It'll be like, here are 3 movies from this one guy in the 70s in Poland, and you would be like, oh, I never thought of that before.
Uh-huh.
And you were introduced into a new world of cinema that you probably have not been introduced to before, and that's what's exciting about it. So, like I said, you gotta go try it if you're the type that's tired of the same old.
Mm-hmm.
That is a perfect.
And let's be
service.
honest, there's so much same old going on these days. Certainly the mainstream population seems to be okay with same old.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the hardcore movie geeks, people who consider themselves cinephiles, they want to find this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Google is a powerful tool, but it's not. You can't just go films I've never seen that are experimental from Poland. You're not going to find that this service is going to deliver you exactly the kind of stuff that you're looking for.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. So free trial, 30 days. What are you waiting for?
Mubi.com/Cinemasins.
Do it.
So we're going to do some rants?
Yeah, we should be good to go.
Okay.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
I'm as mad as hell.
You've never seen me very upset.
Lord Jesus! Lord Jesus!
All right. Who wants to? Jeffrey, do you want to rant about something?
You want me to start?
Yeah.
Okay, so my rant, actually, I'm just going to go back to Annihilation and tell you that I read a review right before we went to see the movie. I just stumbled on it, all I read was the first paragraph of the review. The first line of the review was, "Don't read this book before you go see this movie if you haven't already." It literally was like, "Don't read the book." And it just struck me odd, and I read a little bit further and realized what the person was saying was this movie is very different from the book, and from what they could tell, people who had read the book and invested in it might be distracted by all of the ways the movie was different from the book. But it pissed me off, quite frankly, that someone would say, the guy who made up the world wrote a book. And then another guy paid that guy to do a film version of that world that he created. And this reviewer's like, this movie's great. Don't read the book.
Yeah.
Don't read the book if you haven't seen the movie. I would argue that you should both read the book and watch the movie. They're both terrific, and they work very much more as a complementary pair than as disjointed or somehow conflicting with each other.
I don't understand.
And I think you can appreciate the movie if you've read the book. And I think you can appreciate the book if you've seen the movie first. I think it can work both ways. But the idea for somebody to just open a review with, like, don't read this book. I thought, man, if I was that author, I'd be pissed.
That's what I was just thinking is I wrote a book. It's not famous or anything. But if somebody ever made a movie of it, and then somebody wrote an article that said, hey, don't read this book, I would be offended.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I also don't understand the people who feel the need, like, you have to choose one or the other. It's either or.
Or we don't have to trash something to make something else good. I mean, this movie is great.
Don't blow my candle out just to make yours burn brighter, Jeff.
I won't.
Well, and reading a book after a movie doesn't take anything away, and I don't think reading the book before takes anything away, although there are people who are a little bit too defensive about the book when it is adapted to the screen and everything. Like, why didn't they have this unnecessary piece of bullshit in the movie? But I've read a lot of books after the fact, and like I loved The Martian reading it after watching the movie.
Yep.
Knew the movie. I've seen the movie like 2 or 3 times before I read the book, and the book is amazing.
I did the same with Jurassic Park. I read the book after the movie.
I've seen The Martian about 50 times.
I believe you.
Well, the Jeff's rant flows into my follow-up rant, which is just a mini rant before my regular rant. But I have to go back an episode or two when I was ragging on Natalie Portman and Jennifer Jason Leigh for not having known the races of their characters in Annihilation, because what I have learned since, and was too ignorant to know at the time, was apparently the races of those characters are not disclosed until the sequel.
Yeah.
And you hear Jeff talking about how it takes place inside the head of this one character. And so even if Natalie Portman did go read Annihilation to research her character, she wouldn't have come away knowing her character had a different ethnicity than white. So mea culpa to Natalie Portman. I know she's listening. I'm sorry that I said there's no way in hell you didn't know that, because I didn't realize there was more than one book.
Well, and Garland was prepping this movie by reading galleys of Annihilation before
the other one was
the
even
other
written.
2 had been published.
Oh, wow.
So he was really working on the first part of a trilogy, but without any idea of what the next 2 books were going to be about.
All right, so here's my real rant. Tray tables. Okay? I took Jeff to my local theater last night. As I've said before on the podcast, they've recently renovated all the seats. Fewer seats, but they're bigger, wider. They have electronic reclining. They got a nice big fat armrest with a cup holder. I love it. I love it so much. And they've expanded the menu. So now I can get a pizza or a burger or fucking corn dog nuggets from the concession stand. But they can't do what the airlines do and build me something that's built into the armrest that's a tray that I can pull up and put over my lap and have a little table there for my shit. Because it's already really dark. And now I got to hold all these concessions on my freaking lap.
No, I get where you're going with this.
It wouldn't be hard.
I don't think the combination of a recliner and a tray table would be conducive to A, quiet eating, and B, accidents. Because people are going to be in motion. On an airplane, there's only so much you can let your seat back. All right? In this, where you got fully automated to where you're essentially supine when you get all the way extended, if you have that tray table up there, you're going to jostle, you're going to move.
No, I'm just going to, I'm talking about an airline tray table.
Right.
When I'm done with it, I lift it up and slide it back down into the armrest. Done. I'm not going to be reclining while I eat my burger. I'm going to be sitting in the thing with the tray table, eating while I watch the trailers.
People will be doing that, though.
Well, fuck those people. I want an option. Don't give me all this food at concession that I somehow have to wrangle and hold in my arms and lap for the next 2 hours.
Have you eaten a burger from concessions?
No, but I would if I had something to put it on.
I
got you.
I have. They're fine.
Are they?
They're okay.
All right.
Yeah.
But I like to get the pretzels. And I like to get a cup of cheese to dip that in. And there are both my hands completely used.
That's
I've got to
point.
basically lay napkins across my lap to create a soft table and hope the cheese doesn't spill.
Yeah, I agree with you. But the only thing here is we both know how movie theaters are. The cost of putting in all those trays is what they would be looking at.
How about this? Maybe just designate 5 seats in an auditorium as table seats or seats that have airline trays. Because I'm already picking my seat at the box office now when I buy a ticket. I'm picking my row, my seat number. Why don't you just put a little asterisk next to the one that has a tray table? I'll pick that one, get my burger and my pretzel. We're good to go.
That's a good point.
No more problems.
Why don't you just bring a little tray with you to the movie theater?
Yeah, they would let me do that.
Slide it in.
Yeah, they're going to kick you out for bringing a little cafeteria
I'm
tray.
sorry, sir.
I can't let you have
no trays allowed.
exterior trays to the.
Just put it down the
I
front of your
realize you're
pants.
about to buy $35 worth of concessions from us, but please, you're going to have to take that tray back.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm all alone, and this was a stupid rant, and you guys hate it.
It's not long before they do something like that, probably.
Because they have super high-end theaters in places like Austin and big cities, even have tables and waiters and whatnot, and I'm just asking for something in the middle there. I don't want a waiter, actually. I don't even want a full table. But, okay, like the symphony. When we went to the symphony to see the La La Land thing, the way that that box was set up is you had a table in between.
Yes.
You set your drink or your snack. Just think ahead. That's all I'm saying.
I got you.
You want me to spend that kind of money on the concessions? I'll buy pot roast and mashed potatoes from your concession. But you got to give me a dish and a spoon and a table to set it on.
Pot roast.
You can't eat pot roast. You can't. It reminds me of an episode of Friends.
Okay, so Variety came out with this article the other day that was like, despite the fact that the top 3 movies had female protagonists leading the way, there was actually less. There were actually less movies last year that had female protagonists in it and everything. I think we all agree that there probably should be more diversity and more women in movies, and more people of color. All these type of things. These things should happen. My rant is about the study.
Yeah.
What is your basis for this study?
How do you calculate this?
Like, for instance, they said that it was, I believe in 2016, 29% of the top 100, which, by the way, that's the number, 29. 29%.
Yeah. If it's out of 100,
they out of the top 100 box office hits, which again is a bullshit. Once you get to the 100th movie, you're getting the movies that are like made $20 million. So that's bullshit right off the bat. To even do it with the top 100 box office hits is bullshit. But to say that 29% in 2016 and then 24% in 2017. So I would that nowhere in this article did it say, here's our criteria for saying who was led by a female protagonist or not. Like, I think we all can agree that Last Jedi was led by female, and Beauty and the Beast was, and that Wonder Woman was. But what about when they're the second half of a duo, like Passengers, which was in 2016? What if it's that? Do you consider that the female protagonist in that, or do you just say, well, there was a guy there, so fuck it?
Yeah.
And what about the ones that are ensembles where there's like X-Men Apocalypse, where you have, tons of female characters, even though they're not exactly one of them leading the movie in general.
But they're some of the most powerful ones.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what is your criteria for this? I went through the top 100 in 2016 and went down and went through a criteria of saying, okay, how many had a lead actress that was the main focal point, and how many had where they were at least the second half of a man-woman leading team or whatever. And I came up in 2016 with 42, which is way more than what they came up with. And then in 2017, I did come up with less. So that's true. But I also came up with a lot more ensemble pieces and stuff. There were, of course, because of comic book movies, there's hardly any like one comic book movie where in an ensemble piece where somebody is taking the whole movie and that's theirs or whatever. But I found 42, and I included cartoons in this. In 2016, you had stuff like Moana and all that. But I don't know where their criteria is. So that's
I agree, because look at Black Panther. That is ostensibly about the Black Panther, T'Challa, but it's the women that drive this whole plot. Right?
Yeah.
So I would say that that's well represented as a female protagonist in three forms.
Yes. And I went through 2017 and I was like, okay, yes, there's less, but I also see more ensemble pieces, and I think it's generally the same. I don't think that any Hollywood producer is going to look at 2017 and go, well, we just can't put more, we can't put more women in movies. The top 3 movies were led by women. So I understand the need. This is where I skew from liberal philosophy a lot of times, is when we try to come up with something to say, this is something that's wrong, God damn it, and we need to do something about it and everything. And there's your stats that you're coming up with don't have anything. Like, yes, that is something that I can agree with, but what you're using to prove it is wrong.
What is the conclusion they're drawing?
That more women need to be leading movies.
Then the whole thing is flawed if you're using the top 100 box office.
Yes.
Because you don't know when you make a movie what it's going to make.
Right.
So when I'm Paramount, I'm casting Noah 2, which, by the way, would rule.
Yeah.
And I go, well, how much is this movie going to make? Can I put women in it? It's not, that doesn't work like that.
No.
You've got to go through every single film that got any kind of major release, and that's going to be 300-400 pictures.
And while they said that there were other movies that were indies that like they there was an uptick in all these different boxes that there's an uptick in black women, there's an uptick in Asian women, all that. I was like, okay, uptick in all the boxes and everything, and it's still not enough. It's still like a low amount and whatever, but.
What's that standard that they talk? Isn't there like a Bechdel test or something?
Yeah,
which is
we hate
two
that.
women have to be talking about something other
two
than a
women
man, or
with
something like
two
that?
women
with
names
talking about something other than a man.
Talking about other than a man, and so like it was a joke that was in a comic book a long time ago, and then suddenly people made it into
a thing,
a serious fucking test.
Yeah,
which is sad to me. But and some movies, by the way, that you would never consider paragons of like female empowerment
pass the
test.
Yeah.
So like it's one thing to say, we need to do more, and I agree, we do. but don't give these bullshit stats, and don't give me something that has absolutely no criteria listed at all in the article. Like I read it twice. I was like, so are you going to tell me what it is?
See, that's my thing. Whenever I see a headline about a new study, I'm always like, I need to read about the methodology first. I need to find out, because like yesterday I saw a headline that said something about the new study shows that e-cigarette vapor results in more lead and a couple other really dangerous metals than like regular cigarettes do. And I was like, okay, well, let's check the methodology here. Like, and it was actually, I mean, again, I'm not a scientist, but I wasn't really happy with the methodology of that study enough to say, well, this is news. I can take this and run with it, because they only studied like 34 people. They literally went to e-cigarette vape shops and asked customers if they would participate in the study. Yeah. There's no set number of like which brand or model of vaporizer they used or what kind of liquids they
Only
used.
ones made of lead. That
was
Seriously. Lead e-cigarettes.
Anyway, so it's the same with this. If I saw a headline like that, fewer roles for women this year than last year, I'm like, well, exactly how did you cat it? Because that's not a black and white issue. You have to have some sort of set of rules.
Oh yeah.
Before you start counting, and if you don't tell me what those are, then your numbers are meaningless.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just, in the end, just tell me, here's the criteria, this is what we looked at, here are the list of movies even, if you could just please tell me those too, because like I said, I went back through here and I found more than they did, but my criteria is different from theirs.
Yeah.
And
you reach the same conclusion, but you go a different route by doing it.
Right. And I mean, you just have, I mean, I just, come on with the giving me this information. Just, you can make a general statement, but don't give me this scientific thing, and people are reading that going, oh, weird. It went down from last year. We need to do something about that. Yeah, but it's not because of the stats that you gave us. Anyway.
Not to mention everything that's going to come out in 2018, which they will then compare against 2017, is already in the works.
Yeah.
It's not like anybody can read this study and go, let's react to that.
Right.
That was my specialty when I used to write scientific papers, was the materials and methods section.
Really?
Yeah, because there was such a high standard by which we had to quantify our stuff. And if you don't do it the way other people have done it, then you can't compare your results. Again, you may have the same conclusion, but you're getting it the wrong way, and that's going to be discredited and discounted, rightfully so, because it's apples to oranges instead of apples to apples.
Yeah.
I got a short rant about the Oscars. Okay, so the Oscars are going to drop on like March 4th.
Yeah, it's March 4th.
March 4th. And I feel like we've already gone through award season. The Golden Globes was 2 months, is going to be 2 months before the Oscars. Then you got the Critics' Choice Awards that Chris went to. You've got the Directors Guild, the Producers Guild, the Screenwriters Guild, the Actors Guild. And it's like, my Oscar boner is waning.
I saw a headline yesterday for like the Prop Masters Guild had an awards or something. And I was like, well, it makes sense that they have a guild.
Yeah.
And if they have a guild, I guess it makes sense that they would do awards. But, I mean, think about the ones we don't even hear about.
Well, exactly. And I know this has probably gone on for a long time. Chris, you mentioned that the Oscars used to be in March as a rule.
Used to be
and
later.
all that stuff. And maybe it's just that there's more awards or they're getting more coverage or whatever it is. But it's like, it's too fucking long now.
Well, yeah, you're right. I like the way you said it, not just because it was dirty, but your boner is gone. Like, whenever the Oscars do come around, I already care less than I did last year. Now, I have seen some people online suggest that it's later this year because of the Olympics.
Oh, yeah?
Doesn't make a ton of sense to me.
No. It's later because that's what they decided on. It's actually been in March for the last 2 or 3 years, I think. I can't remember how long it's been. It was in early February for a while in the 2000s because they thought that, I'm trying to remember what it was that they were trying to do. They may have been trying to do what you're talking about.
That makes sense to me.
But the problem that came up with that is the Academy was not really given enough time to review all the movies that they needed to see to vote. So they added the extra month there. So we started, that's where I believe we started seeing less and less surprises and everything, because once it got to February, the whole momentum had just gone straight into these movies that they were already awarding.
Mm-hmm.
Now that there's like a month away from all of that, there's the chance that we might see something different from all this other type of stuff, which is weird and just kind of shows you why award shows are a little bit stupid anyway.
Yeah.
Because
it's more about when you vote than it is what you're voting for.
It's what's on your conscience and what's gathered momentum.
Somebody's going to accidentally vote for Black Panther.
They are. Yeah, at this point.
Well, and it feels like a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you have all of those movies that are sort of earmarked as award movies that dump right at the end of the year. And I'll tell you, as a person, kind of a normal person who doesn't watch 100 movies a year, but tries to watch 15 or 20, lives in a small town with one small little 7, screen Cineplex. It's going to take me a while to see some of those movies that come out at the end of the year. I think that is part of what drives those award shows to then maybe have them a little later, but having them later makes the people dump them a little later, and I feel like it's a little bit of a cycle.
Yeah. Well, the people who vote on them, for the most part, I feel like should have seen all these movies already.
I agree.
But the public
I
maybe
agree.
hasn't.
Right.
And you can't please both of those crowds. So you can't have a perfect outcome. If you move it earlier so that everything's fresher in the voters' minds, there's not enough time for me to see those movies to care about the awards. But if you push it back so there's enough time for me to see it, the voters get all...
But televising the show is for the public.
It is.
So you've got to give the people a chance to connect to some of the movies that they're going to
for example,
presented.
I saw a couple days ago, there's somebody's come out with some kind of allegation about Shape of Water for like the third time that it rips something else off. This is actually a lawsuit this time.
Oh, yeah.
The first time that story came out, it was very quickly determined that even the author of the thing he was accused of ripping off didn't think he was ripping it off. They both had talked about their ideas at the same time. But this is a lawsuit straight up saying...
How could you not be sure you were ripping something off as strange as that story is?
I agree.
Like, wouldn't you immediately go, isn't that this thing?
And this mute woman has sex with the fish.
This is a film about a janitor who bonds with a captive dolphin creature and tries to help it escape. And the makers of this film have sued Guillermo del Toro and the studio for Shape of Water. This news broke before the Oscar ballots were due, according to the article I read. And, the articles speculate this could impact the Shape of Water's chances to win awards if people doing the voting decide to believe these allegations. It could do the opposite and get him more votes if they decide that the allegations are false. Basically, there's so much time that news articles and lawsuits and all this stuff can shift. And what might have won Best Picture a month ago might not.
Well, I mean, my thing is, sure, if the Oscars are here for a reason, and at this date for a reason, which I understand, to give enough time for everybody to watch, have all the awards closer together then. Don't have Golden Globes come out 2 months before the Oscars, because all the fanfare, all the momentum, all the stuff has, even for people as plugged into it as we are, maybe I'm the only one, but it's really starting to just kind of okay, all right.
Yeah, and it used to be a big, huge boon for movies to get to Oscar nominations and everything. So that was it was a financial aspect to it and everything. I just went back into some Oscar history there. It was in late March.
Late March?
I started in 1990, and it was probably in late March before then. But 1990 all the way up until 2004, it was in late March.
Oh.
And then it went to late February or early March, 2005, I believe, is what it was the first year, or 2004 was. And it's been that way since.
Oh.
It has been in that area, late February, early March since then. So we've had that for about 15 years. Now, I think they used to have it later because it was a boon for Oscar nominees. It's no longer, I don't think. It kind of is. In a way it is. I mean, it's already got this Oscar boost has already happened well before it even gets nominated for Oscars, I think now.
Mm-hmm.
I think people just know about these movies at this point. Whereas back in the day, a movie got an Oscar nomination. I've never heard of that before.
Right.
I'm going to go see it or
Right.
whatever. So I don't know. They sort of, split the distance, I guess, on that and just said, all right, let's put it in early March.
Do we want to skip on to recommend some awards?
Sure. I think those are probably a little more entertaining than covering the news, even though
And we covered some news.
Anyway.
I mean, there is one big news thing that I think we could talk about.
Okay.
We don't have to go through like 4 news things, but Joss Whedon getting off Batgirl.
Yeah, and that's what's weird to me is seeing how many people are celebrating that.
That is weird, although I guess that's sort of an offshoot of that his ex-wife and everything. But the interesting thing to me is that he takes himself off this project and said, I just didn't have a story there.
Mm-hmm. That's bullshit.
Right.
He's off the project because one of 2 things has happened, and I'm just going to be politically incorrect. He or the studio fears backlash with this stuff about his wife has accused him of, which as far as I know was just adultery, and using his status as the creator of Buffy to push his feminist persona even while being an adulterer. I don't think he's been accused by anyone of abuse or harassment.
No, not anything like that.
But I think there's either fear of backlash or they've decided they need to get a woman director on there and go the route they did with Wonder Woman, and that between how great a job she did and all the other female directors who've had prominence this year, but I also think there's a kind of a PR thing there that they're maybe like, man, I don't know if we can have a man direct Batgirl at this point. Now that we've, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Now that we've given Ryan Coogler Black Panther, not that DC did that, now that we've given Wonder Woman to a female director, maybe, and that would in large part be a good thing, I think. And there's something about a woman's sensibilities that I think will probably make a movie better if they get a good director. But saying you didn't have a story is the stupidest How many Batgirl comics are there? Read one.
Yeah.
You were pumped when you took the job.
Yeah.
Like that, I just don't. It bothers me when people use these bullshit excuses and we just let them walk. Something else happened there. Maybe you don't want to tell me, but then just make a statement that says we've amicably parted ways over creative differences and call it a day.
Yeah, like the Lord and Miller thing.
Yeah,
for
don't
Solo.
tell me you couldn't come up with a story, which is the flimsiest see-through bullshit I've ever heard. Oh my God.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, who knows? I don't know how to feel about this as far as just forgetting about, things that he's may or may have not done or whatever. It does seem like the right thing to do regardless.
Sure.
I mean, I think that Joss Whedon can still do a movie like this and we'd love it. But, it's probably best that he does.
Listen, I mean, Joss Whedon's last 2 movies have been Justice League and Avengers Age of Ultron, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, although Justice League, I mean, it's not
we don't know how much
yeah.
he got involved with it, but it's not like he's batting 1,000.
No.
Avengers was great, Buffy was great, Serenity was great, Firefly was great. Give this project to a talented female. In fact, it was an interesting thing just today, I think it was, Roxane Gay, who's a super talented writer, American writer, on Twitter, tweeted Warner Brothers or something like that and just said, hey, if you want me to write this, I'll write it. And then the VP for marketing for DC got back to her on Twitter and said, are you serious? And she said, yeah. And she was like, okay, email me. So
wow.
Man, I should have tweeted something.
Well, you're also not a female.
I'll tweet at Chris McKay. By the way, he's been in the news. Batman director who I think is still working on an eventual Nightwing movie is now in talks to revive Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Which, if I'm going to get excited about Dungeons and Dragons coming back, it's going to be because it has a director I like and who likes me back.
Yep. He has liked your cat pictures.
Because otherwise, I'm not going to be excited about a Dungeons and Dragons movie.
We could remake Mazes and Monsters, that Tom Hanks TV movie where it was talking about how it was satanic and stuff.
Oh, I forgot all about that.
Okay, yeah. So you want to go to the recommends?
Yeah, sure. Jeff, you want to recommend something?
Totes amaze balls.
There, right.
It won the Academy Award.
Oh, for what?
For best movie ever made.
I'd love to. I am going to recommend Captain Fantastic.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to see this.
I still haven't seen this.
Have any of you seen it?
I have not seen it.
Viggo Mortensen?
Vigo.
I've got it. Of course. I've got the Blu-ray.
It was not exactly under the radar. I think he was nominated for an Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't a huge film. It wasn't one that got a ton of buzz. And it is terrific.
Yeah.
It is about a quirky family that has some distinct choices, and they're sort of facing some of the fallout from some of those choices that they've made. But what I love about it most is that the performances are fantastic. The kids in this movie seem like real kids. They just feel real. Like all of their choices seem unscripted. They just seem like what you would expect a kid that age in that condition, in that circumstance to do. And also when it juxtaposes Vigo and that family against people who have differing views about how families should be raised, particularly, I don't think it's giving anything away to say it's primarily him and his family versus his wife's parents. And his wife's parents,
Frank Langella?
Frank Langella is the father. They are not inherently evil. Like, you can see both sides. Like, you're rooting for Vigo and these kids, and at the same time, while you're rooting for them, you're going, that choice was pretty weird. Like, I don't know if I would do that the way you did that. And when you're rooting kind of against, Frank Langella and his wife and these parents, you don't want them to, like, take the kids from Vigo. At the same time, you're like, but I kind of sympathize with where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Everyone feels really real and authentic, and it is not a neat and tidy wrap up, but it's just a beautiful movie. It deals with really, I think, significant and important themes about what modern society is and some of the things about modern society that we sort of take for granted and to just assume are great and maybe not as great as we might have thought. And looking specifically at a family that takes a slightly different approach, more than a slightly different approach to some of those things. So yes, Captain Fantastic, highly recommend. It was a great performance by Vigo and a great movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good call.
Yeah.
You know what I always forget Vigo was in? G.I. Jane.
Oh, yeah.
Where Demi Moore says with bloody face, "Suck my dick!"
That's right.
And then they accept her.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
What a terrible movie that was. I'm going to recommend a movie I caught that I'd never heard of. This, you know how I do. I like to look for titles on the movie channels of movies I've never heard of with people I like, and then watch them. And both my recommend and my warn fall into that category this week. I'm recommending a movie from 2007 called Snow Angels.
Huh. Okay.
Yes, I too had never heard of it. Sam Rockwell, Kate Beckinsale, Michael Angelino, Griffin Dunn, Amy Sedaris. Written and directed by David Gordon Green.
Really?
Who made
really?
Pineapple Express.
Yeah.
And this is nothing like that. This is a small town drama, winter coming of age kind of a thing. But most importantly, I wanted to point out how good Sam Rockwell is. He's playing a character that Roland Emmerich would love. A terrible alcoholic, mostly absentee father who, despite his inability to stop being those things, is still trying. And I just was really wrapped up in it. And I really don't want to say too much more. It's not like the kind of thing I could spoil, but it gets pretty deep at times. And it has a couple of good, surprising chuckles. And I just love when I stumble across a movie, especially one that old. It's like 11 years old with all these people in it that I know who were famous when they made it. I just never heard of it. Probably might have gone straight to DVD, might have been like a HBO production, and I didn't have HBO at the time. I don't know. But
it just shows you how good Sam Rockwell is in virtually everything. What was the one where he played Chuck Barris? It was
Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
Yeah, he was great in that. That's a weird movie.
Yeah,
that was one directed by Clooney, right?
Yes.
It's a weird movie, but he's awesome in it.
Well, and he looks like one of the favorites to win this year for the Oscar. And if he doesn't win, he's certainly now been placed in the category of actors who should win eventually. And it's good to see because even his early stuff, like Safe Men and even Galaxy Quest, went before he was a star.
Yeah.
He's fantastic in all of them. It's always good to see somebody with that much talent get what they deserve.
I see that you're the rare man in this world who has an obsession with Kate Beckinsale.
Yeah, I know that makes me unique.
Yeah,
very weird.
But yeah, I just note that I think the last 3 recommends and warns you've done Broke Down Palace, you've done that Whiteout, and you've done this one.
Wow, I haven't even talked about her Diet Coke commercial.
No.
Diet Coke commercial?
Yeah,
I don't think I've seen that
by
one.
a swimming pool.
Oh, nice.
I'll YouTube you the link.
Okay.
Because YouTube is a verb for emailing now.
Yes.
I'll YouTube you.
Yes.
Am I doing both my recommend and warn, or am I just doing the recommends first and coming back to the warn?
Let's come back to it because
right.
Jeff, do you have a warn?
I do, but I only gave you the recommends. So
Okay. So we'll circle back to it.
Okay.
I screwed up. I'm sorry. I broke your podcast.
Very good. You broke it.
I'm going to recommend Trainwreck. Okay.
Okay.
So Trainwreck came out in 2015, and at the time that I saw it, didn't like it all that much. I I thought it was kind of overhyped. I loved Amy Schumer at that time. She was doing Inside Amy Schumer. Loved her stand-up special that she did the first one. And she was on a roll. And love Bill Hader, obviously. But for whatever reason, this movie didn't connect to me. I thought, I don't know, I thought it was just too overblown. And it wasn't, she needed to be more confined. I caught this again the other day, and it's fucking funny, man. Like, there's some really, really good performances in here. Now, she's great in this, but Bill Hader playing a straight man is still really, really good.
Way different.
It is.
Yeah.
There's surprise performances. John Cena is hilarious.
John
in this
Cena
movie.
steals the movie.
Ezra Miller in his one scene.
Yeah.
There's that sex scene where, like, you can tell the disconnect because he's like 16 or something like that.
Yeah.
And she's however old she is, but he's like coming up with dude terms. He's like, cradle my bunch, cradle my bunch.
Yeah.
He likes that bunch line.
Yeah.
Like I said, Amari Stoudemire is pretty funny in this. LeBron James actually has some comic chops in this.
Yeah.
It's really enjoyable.
I just wish Judd Apatow could edit his movies 20 minutes.
I know.
Every single one of them.
Yeah.
This one's 2 hours and 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
it's too long.
And he overindulges. That's his main issue, I believe, as a director, is that he overindulges. And so, like, if he has a guy like LeBron James in there, it's like, let's let him go on and on and on. And he's got some funny moments, LeBron James does. Don't get me wrong. But sometimes you just sit there and go, yeah, I see your hot shit. You got the big guy to get in your movie.
Yeah. No, I know. I think I know the scene that you're thinking about is when they're sitting at the restaurant and he's like, Cleveland, the land. And like he goes on for several beats. It's like, just
that's in the theater. Good. I was like, come on.
Yeah.
Just you can cut it right here. Yeah. You're good. Doesn't have to keep going.
While we're talking about movies starring basketball players, Jeff and I saw a trailer last night in front of Annihilation for a movie called Uncle Drew. Have you guys ever heard of this?
No.
I wonder if we should just pull the trailer up and let them watch it, because I don't know if describing it can really do it justice.
Kyrie Irving did an Uncle Drew character when he was selling.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Tennis shoes or soda or something.
I remember that.
It's a bunch of basketball stars in old man makeup.
Well, they're going to make a movie about
street ball.
Oh, really?
And it's going to suck.
Oh.
And don't watch it.
Shaq.
Oh, Tiffany Haddish is in it.
Well, yes.
Nick Kroll.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I mean, I haven't seen the trailer. So I don't know.
One of those trailers that feels like it belongs in front of Tropic Thunder.
What a weird...
Or on Saturday Night
Annihilation.
Lil Rel Howery's in it.
Oh, nice.
How is this going to be bad? There's so many good people in it.
Just watch the trailer.
Okay.
All it is, every joke looks to be basketball guy in old man makeup trying to be funny.
I can see that. I can see that.
All the other people put in place just to draw you into the theater. But it's just going to be, I thought it was fake. I thought it was a fake movie.
The trailer doesn't serve very well if it in fact does end up being a wonderful film.
That's true. If it is funny, they
that
put
is very diplomatic to say, by the way.
They put all the shit in the trailer. Okay,
in 6 months, if we're all going, that film was so great, whoever made that trailer is going to be fired.
Yeah.
I have a recommend, but I do not have a warn this week. So my recommend is Into the Abyss.
Really wanted to see this.
Werner Herzog's documentary. And it's, again, it's fun. It's, what is it about true crime stuff, man? These are horrible events, but we're just drawn to them in some way. There's something about them, and I feel like at odds with myself watching these things because it's like, man, that's incredible. Tell me more, and then like somebody's lives have ended because of all this. But Into the Abyss is not really worried about if the person did it or not or whatever. He does bring it up. There's two people who were convicted of these murders that are in this movie. And one of them says that guy did it and the other guy says that guy did it. And the only difference between the two is that there's one guy who's just serving a life sentence and the other guy is getting executed for it. And the reason why the other guy isn't getting executed for it is because his dad, who was also in prison, made an impassioned plea to the jury saying, I was a bad father and he can't you can't punish him because I wasn't there for him. If I was there, he wouldn't have done this, blah, 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 blah. And he got just enough to get people to say this guy shouldn't get executed.
Wow.
And so Werner Herzog is a little bit more interested in, even though he does go through the case and everything, he goes through the case, and that's got the hallmarks of the true crime stuff, where you got the pictures, you got the videos, you got all those, this is what happened at what time, and just the simple shot of, they have the crime scene video, and the cops, when they arrived at the scene, were going through this house, and just something as simple as the person who had gotten murdered, obviously, had been baking cookies. They had just the cookie dough on the cookie sheet was waiting out there, and there's like a shot of like a broken egg and everything just lied neatly on the counter and everything, and you're like, that's what they were in the middle of doing when this happened.
Wow.
And so it goes through all that, but he's a little bit more focused on, does anybody deserve to die at all? And he even tells the guy who's sent for execution, he's like, I want you to know that I, just because I may not like you doesn't mean that I feel like anyone should be executed and everything. Like Werner Herzog, only he can say it in that voice.
Exactly.
Like, just because I don't like you doesn't mean that I feel like anyone should be executed. and that harsh whisper that he has. But he goes through that, and he goes through like he talks to the guy, it's not the priest, but the guy, the religious figure who's with them until they die or whatever, who holds on to them until they die, talking with him at the very beginning of the movie, and then talking with a guy who did this constantly, and this is in Texas, where they apparently just do it like twice a week or something like that. They talked to one of the guys who was in charge of that, to kind of like the Tom Hanks in Green Mile. Talked to that guy, and he's like, yeah, in 2000 he quit the job because he couldn't, he at the risk of his pension, because he couldn't do this anymore.
Wow. You can't
because
blame him.
As much as these people are horrible and they deserve to pay for their crimes and everything, the whole killing them part gets to people, and especially this guy after so many. He said one particular was there. It was the first woman they ever executed was the one that sort of like got him. Whatever. Anyway, I would highly recommend Into the Abyss. That is a movie that's going to affect you in some way.
Sounds like a madcap comedy romp.
It really is, right? Werner Herzog goes through all this, goes through the poverty of this town and all the sort of he's just an expert. I've seen about 10 to 15 Werner Herzog movies, and this guy he's just on the top of his game. And when he does documentaries and stuff, they're always gripping, even in stuff like Grizzly Man, where it's, you sit there and go, oh, that guy's kind of cuckoo or whatever. Werner Herzog is the guy behind the camera in this documentary. And he's just good at what he does, man. And he will not, that movie is that documentary is an hour and 45 minutes. It just blew by.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
that's on Mubi, right?
It's on Mubi. Yeah.
Wow. Bonus ad coverage.
Yeah, man. Check it out. Let's warn some people about some things.
Warning! I brought a warn.
All right.
The movie Silence from a couple of years ago. Anybody seen that?
Scorsese, huh?
Yep. Anybody seen it?
I have not.
Nope.
It's not that the movie is bad. Were you going to say?
Oh, well, I was just saying, but I have heard nothing but good, so I'm interested in a warning on this one.
My warning is a little bit specific to the fact that I love the book that this movie is based on. And I feel like, as much as I love Scorsese and I think I understand how and why he made the choices he made in making this movie, he took a book that has incredible, compelling characters and really, really fascinating things to say about faith and doubt and human beings, and he made a boring movie. And I wish he hadn't. I mean, there's just so much narration in this movie. He just holds on these beautiful shots for long periods of time and doesn't ever seem to give me, and even the actors in it are great, and there are really decent performances, and somehow the sum of everything is less than what you would expect from those parts. I literally watched it with two friends in a home on Blu-ray, and both of those people fell asleep during the movie, which is not a good sign. I stayed awake because I really wanted to like it, and it's not that it's a bad movie. It is much more disappointing than I wanted it to be, loving the book as much as I did.
Interesting. And this is the one, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't this the one that he's been thinking about making for like decades?
I'm sure.
Yeah, it's like this passion project he's carried with him forever. He's Catholic. He's sort of held on to this thing. And I wonder if maybe that's not part of the issue, is that he's so personally invested in this story that he couldn't quite help himself, maybe needed some external editing and things like that.
Luc Besson with Valerian, right? Because he wanted to make Valerian before he made Fifth Element, and he's been carrying that story for so long, and maybe too long.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm not going to be rushing out to see Silence anytime soon. I can tell you that.
I wouldn't say don't see it. It's worth seeing. It's definitely worth reading if you read anything, but it's just not as great as I wanted it to be.
Interesting. No warnings for you, right?
No warnings for me.
I'm going to warn you. And I'm going to spoil the shit out of this movie. Another one that I had never heard of with some people I knew in it. I'm flipping on the movie channels. This is a 2016 movie called Sugar Mountain. Anything? Bueller?
Nope.
Bueller?
Nope.
That's what I thought. All right, so our man Cary Elwes is in this, and the other name you'll recognize is Jason Momoa.
Oh, yeah.
And then the three leads are people I all recognized, but I didn't know their names. And I had to look them up, and they were like, one was on Roswell or some shit, or One Tree Hill or whatever the fuck. I'd seen their faces, but I didn't know their names. So basically, here's the premise. One brother comes down from a hike on a mountain and says that his brother he went hiking with is missing. Now, you learn very early on that it's a hoax, and that they owe money to Jason Momoa, who's this town thug. And it's like I don't know where it's set. It's like rural West Virginia or some shit, someplace where there's mountains. And so the girl who's the lead is married to the missing hiker. The brother has always been in love with her. Cary Elwes starts popping up every now and then as the alcoholic town sheriff. He's so alcoholic, he might as well be in a Blade Runner movie. Every scene has him either drinking or pouring something into his flask. And it's never explored any further than that. It's just like window dressing.
Right.
So he suspects that it's a hoax, but he can't prove it. But they're trying to get, what they want to do is have him stay up there long enough, and he's supposed to go to this cave and hide on the other side of the mountain, and then be miraculously rescued so they can sell their story to the news programs, the TV movie people. All right, that's the plan the whole way, which is inherently stupid.
Yes.
And of course, things go awry because when the brother comes back, he saw his dead mom in a vision on the mountain, and she told him not to sell the story. So the main central conflict at the end of the movie is that he doesn't want to sell the story and make the money, even though Jason Momoa is about to kill him. And there's incest.
Of course there is.
Because while he's on the mountain, the brother who's in love with his wife, they think he dies. Because they go up to the cave and he's not there. And they think he's dead, and they fuck. That night, actually. They get back from the mountain, and through some movie magic, their grief turns to sex. And they fuck. And they decide to sleep, as characters in movies do, they decide to sleep on the floor naked. So that when Cary Elwes comes in the next day, who's her dad, which you don't find out until that scene, he catches them. And he reacts way over the top. Like, I know it's your daughter, but she cheated on her husband. No big deal. Nope. That's her brother. Cary Elwes is his dad and fucked their mom a long time ago, and they never told the kids. And so, accidental incest. Which, if I'm being honest, is the best kind.
Yeah,
you don't want to be accused of doing it on purpose.
Right. That's the worst.
But it goes from adultery to incest like that. And
damn it, I fucked my sister.
Only out of pure morbid curiosity did I finish this thing through to the end. And I would just hold up a big red stop sign in your face.
Is it better than flowers in the attic?
It's better than a piece of fruit in a cup.
Okay. Fair enough.
Barrett, do you have a warn?
I have a soft warn because I haven't seen the entire series yet. But I watched the first episode of Altered Carbon on Netflix.
I've heard it's kind of uneven.
Yeah, it is. Any of you seen this?
I have not.
The trailer looked awesome.
Yeah, it did. It's got a lot of similar themes as like Blade Runner and things like that. Characters' souls represented in this, what they call a stack, like a microchip, can transfer from body to body as long as the stack is unharmed. Interesting concept. It's set 300 years into the future. The guy, Joel Kinnaman,
from The Killing.
The main guy who represents. He died 250 years ago, but he's resurrected here. Interesting concept. Goes just way over the top though, as far as I'm not a prude about profanity, but it's one of those things where you throw in a dozen fucks when like one will do. A shit ton of nudity. Everybody's drinking all the time, but nobody's drunk.
I gotta watch this show.
There's everywhere is sex, and it's basically kind of like Blade Runner 2049, where like not only do you have sex in this universe, you do it right up in front of like the picture window in the alley.
Just because I want to pay for sex doesn't mean I want to do it in the display window.
That's correct.
I don't know. It didn't work for me. I thought it was honestly kind of boring for a show that has
How
all
many
these
episodes
concepts.
have you gone through?
Just the first one.
Okay. But that's an important one. It's got to hook you.
Yeah, exactly. It reminded me a lot of a different sentiment, but American Gods.
Yeah.
On Starz. Felt like that just like was punching you in the face instead of like presenting something.
Oh yeah, and I watched like 5 or 6 episodes of that before I realized this is not for me. Same with fucking Westworld. And everybody is all like, oh, episode 6, though, brings it all into focus. And I'm like, I'm not going to waste 5 fucking hours to get into a show. Thank you very much. I'm done.
It may be the case there with Altered Carbon, too.
It may be.
But it didn't get me. It may get much better, and I may catch up with it later on, but it's not something that I really want to go back to immediately. So proceed with caution. If you enjoy it, but...
Well, I got to worry a little bit. Well, now that they're basically cranking out a new series or a new original film almost every other week, that sooner or later the talent pool that they're hiring has got to be diluted, right? And my news item we didn't talk about that I'm going to shoehorn into this segment was the new Lost in Space series from Netflix, released a trailer this week. And it's a pretty bland trailer. That all it really tells you is that this is going to be a serious take, not a comedic one, not a lighthearted one. And Jeff and I grew up watching Lost in Space. I loved that TV show, hated the movie.
You hated the movie.
But I just wanted to let you guys know who's making this, and I'm not trying to belittle anybody, but the screenwriting team behind Dracula Untold and The Last Witch Hunter are writing the series.
Oh,
the showrunner is a guy who ran Prison Break.
Okay.
So maybe he knows a little bit about something. I don't have a lot of confidence when you tell me that those previous credits that this is going to turn out to be balls amazing.
Did you ever see The Last Witch Hunter? Wasn't that Vin Diesel?
Oh, I knew enough to stay away. Same with Dracula Untold.
Yeah.
We're already like over our longest episode ever.
No, we're right around the longest.
This is my biggest regret. I got to apologize because Jeff actually spent 9 hours watching the Lord of the Rings movies so that we could talk about them.
Well, if you want to go over that real quick, that's fine.
You might just have to have me back sometime.
I think that would work because I think that's probably more than a 5-10 minute conversation.
It would probably be more entertaining for you if it were, because it would probably take me, again, there are a good 10 and a half, 11 hours of film there that in 5 minutes for me to tell you why I think they're not all that great might be a little tough.
I agree. Okay, so we'll just...
but I can sum up by saying Battle of Helm's Deep, which was your favorite part? When the elf rode the shield down the staircase like a skateboard? Or when the human actually tossed the dwarf into a bunch of orcs?
I actually
amazing.
like the dwarf tossing better because I like discrimination.
Right.
And I have no respect.
So let's hold on to those. We'll do something else some other time and talk about like
you can't look him in the eye.
Well, the Viggo Mortensen when Gimli tells him to do that, he's like, what?
Yeah.
And he's like, toss me, and it's like that's the exchange that makes that scene so good. All right, we'd like to thank Jeffrey Scott for coming in.
Thanks for having me. It was a blast.
You got anything to push? You got any like things coming up that we need to?
Yeah, I'm going to do some serious marketing in a small town hospital.
Nice.
So look for that.
Right. Nice. I love marketing, man.
I live an exciting life, guys.
Healthcare
That's
marketing.
right.
It's amazing.
Well, you're in the perfect town for healthcare marketing.
That's
for
true.
sure. But let's see. That'll do it for this week. We've got Keep Going to SinCast presented by Cinemasins Facebook page. Keep Going to SoundCloud, our Cinemasins Twitter. We've got a lot of places to go, and you tell us what you thought of this
Good responses to the last few episodes.
Absolutely.
Keep them coming, man.
Absolutely. And, people pointing out stuff when we get things wrong here and there. I'm like, yeah, okay. All right. That's fair. Yeah, we go. Okay. We got to mess that up, I guess.
Yeah.
But, just tell us what you think. And I enjoy answering a lot of that stuff on Facebook. So, but that'll do it for this week. It's Chris Atkinson, Jeremy Scott, Barrett Scher, and Jeffrey Scott. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
I dated a girl in college that had this, it wasn't a fetish, but she was really into seeing blank pages that hadn't been written on yet.
It sounds kind of like a fetish.
I don't think she got like sexual pleasure. She got some sort of like enjoyment out of just looking at it. Blank slate.
That's weird. Is the girl you dated?
Yep.
Did you break up with her?
Eventually.
That was a good move.
Because she found out I had a girlfriend.
Lovely.
It was terrible too. I don't know when this revelation happened, but like we had the confrontation on the quad at University of Louisville.
Nice.
And it was this cinematic moment where she stormed away from me, and I don't remember her name. It was like Carol or something.
And All By Myself started playing?
Well, no, she stormed off, and I was like, Carol. Like in the middle of like a crowd thing with people looking at me. I was like, wow, this really seems dramatic. I'm just going to go fucking to the library or something.
You didn't go all like streetcar? Like, Carol!
Her name was definitely not Carol.
Oh, I was going to say. What are you doing dating a Carol? I mean,
Kimberly?
What are you thinking there? You're like Mike Myers and Sorry I Married an Axe Murder. Breaking up with girls for weird reasons.
She was in the mafia.
She smelled like
Cosa
soup.
Nostra. Like soup. Harriet.
Hard-hearted harbinger of haggis. Beautiful, bemused, bellicose butcher. Unloving. Unknowing. Sorry.
No, it's untrusted.
Trusting. Yeah.
Untrusting, unlove Ed?
No.
Yeah.
Jane, get me off this crazy thing called love.
Did you ever live in Gibson at college?
No.
When I lived there with Josh, we lived in a place called Gibson Hall, and Josh had us all answer the phone whenever it rang as Debbie Gibson Hall of Electric Youth. Who do you want to rock?
Or I was looking up something to do with Valentine's Day, the movie, and apparently Julia Roberts was paid like $59,000 per word for each.
Oh, geez.
Yikes.
Now, she wasn't paid by the word.
No.
That was her contract.
They just happened to like divide. Like somebody out there actually was like, here's all the Julia Roberts dialogue. I'm going to count the words.
Yeah.
And then they're like, here's how much money she made. Now I'm going to divide those words into that.
That's
That's
exactly
still
what it
funny,
was.
though.
Yeah, it is.
If there's an actor who could charge by the word,
Yeah.
I think it would be Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
Right? I think
People
Morgan
have
Freeman
always
could
loved
go to
the
a
sound
studio.
Probably
and
does.
say, rather than a flat fee, I want you to pay me per word.
Yeah.
And there'd be an accountant going, why is he improvising so much? It's not in the script.
Yeah,
Like, this is going to cost us an extra.
Stop talking, Morgan.
Yeah.
Julia Roberts was paid, it was $11,952 for each word. She got $3 million and
She's really hardly in that movie.
and like 250 words. Okay, I think I've got everything pulled out.
Yes.
Still one more thing.
Yeah. You haven't pulled everything out, Barrett.
Oh, boy. This is going to be interesting. Barrett broke the fucking thing. Right in my... I was a big emotional moment.
God damn it.
I was about to tear up.
Fuck, I dropped the thing. You dropped the fucking thing?
Motherfucking shit.
What movie is that?
Die Hard with a Vengeance. I don't know why, but that scene, because because they call it the Thing.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that even the movie people know what it is that they're trying to get their cups off with.
Right.
It's your typical movie thingamajigger that they use.
This is really an episode we should have filmed.